All right, got my boy Sai with me today, and we're going to be talking about Luffy's next power-up because I think it may have been revealed in the latest chapter of 1114 when we see the Mother Flame. So, Saturn is like going through Egghead trying to stop Vegapunk's transmission until he eventually comes across the room that has like the chamber with the Mother Flame inside of it. So the Mother Flame is implied to be like the fuel source for the ancient weapon Uranus that is being used by Emu and the world government to destroy certain parts of the world, certain islands, like we saw her take out, or him or her take out Lelusia, put a hole into the ocean as a result, and it raised the sea level, which is going into Vegapunk's whole other theory about why the world will be flooded. But we're going to mainly be focusing on the Mother Flame and how it relates to Luffy and his next possible power-up. So, first of all, I just want to put it out there, I don't think that Gear 5, or what we see of him, is Luffy's like last power up. Like, I don't think that's the peak of his power. Do you agree with that?
Oh, I totally agree. There's no way that we've seen the pinnacle of Luffy before we fought Emu or Blackbeard. You know, we need one more good power up by the time we hit those fights. And I think you're right. I think the Mother Flame could be key to what we're going to be looking at in the future.
And just me personally made me think that this probably relates to Luffy in some way. It's just because of the aesthetic of it. Like, it looks, you know, kind of like Luffy's hair in a way, kind of. It actually looks more like Joy Boy's hair, if anything. Like, when we got that silhouette of Joy Boy when Who's Who was first talking about him, his hair is like a flame, more so than what Luffy's is, right?
Oh yeah, I'd say so.
So this probably in some way is tied to Joy Boy. Now, I don't know exactly how. I mean, we do know that Joy Boy did have the Nika fruit, or at least it's heavily implied that he did at some point. But another thing just about the Nika fruit in general, before we get more into the Mother Flame, is that it's Sun God Nika. And it's weird that there's nothing sun about him in his devil fruit form. He's just rubber and Toon Force. There's like no fire or sun stuff. That's weird, right?
Yeah. Okay, so like it's so strange when you think about it, right? Because Luffy is the sun god, but nobody talks about, wow, like how Luffy's hot, you know, he's burning up. No, dude. He's only done that twice with Red Rock and Red Hawk. And it's like we don't even know like what the Gear 5th equivalent of that is yet. And Luffy just straight up has not really utilized the fire aspects of his zone yet. So I think you're right. Like if there is a Gear 6th, I think fire is going to be, you know, it's going to be a key factor.
Yeah, so that's ultimately what we're getting at here. There will be a Gear 6. Like, there kind of has to be. And it will probably be, like, his fire form. I'm just thinking about that right now. Maybe that relates to, like, Ace being his brother and having the Marimara no Mi. I don't know, maybe that was, like, subtle foreshadowing there or something. I mean,
oh, yeah.
We'll go over more subtle foreshadowing. But also, you already brought up Red Hawk. When he first does the Red Hawk, it's in Fishman Island, right? Like, underwater?
Yep.
Is that supposed...
Fishman Island underwater.
Yeah, is that supposed to parallel to the Mother Flame here? Because it is, like, a flame underwater. I don't know. Knowing
that could be a nice tie-in. Yeah. Nice little nod to that. Or if you saw the 3D2Y special, where Luffy fights a guy named Brundy World, we get this really cool sequence where you see Ace doing the exact same pose and exact same attack, which for Ace, of course, it's Fire Fist, not Red Hawk. But that's also nice as well.
Right. Yeah, I forgot that guy.
It's like passing on the torch of D, really.
That is true. As Joy Boy did, as we will find out. So, another thing about this Mother Flame relates to some of the mythology that Oda has based Luffy and Sun God Nika off of. We talked about this like 2 years ago. This was like when Gear 5 was first revealed. Everybody was like, oh my god, it's Hanuman. Oh my god, Bajrangabali. Because, you know, in Hinduism, we have Hanuman, also known as Bajrangabali. He's a deity, and it seems like Oda somewhat based him off of Luffy or Sun God Nika to some extent. Also, it's kind of evident because the final attack that Luffy uses against Kaido is called the Bajrang Gun, which is also like another name of Hanuman here with Bajrangabali. And Hanuman, like in one of the stories, straight up eats the sun when he mistakes it for a fruit, which is
classic.
Pretty interesting. We've all been there.
Hey, that's kind of nuts. Kind of like, you got to be a god, dude. Just you'll look up, you're like, yo, I see an apple up there, and you just eat the sun by accident. That's kind of insane. That's a power scaling.
It makes you think, like, okay, is Oda even going to go further than that? And is Luffy going to eat the Mother Flame?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I guess if we wanted the Mother Flame, we could just take it with us, huh? Luffy could just eat it. I don't think there would be any downsides to it, considering it's, Gear 5th Luffy we're talking about.
I mean, he could do it. He could just turn it to rubber, I guess, and then absorb it. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, when you really think about it, how do we even, take the Mother Flame out of the tank, right? Like, can you just pick it up? We don't really have any idea.
Yeah, I mean, just what the Mother Flame is in general, it's still unknown. It kind of does resemble the flame on the Lunarians. I don't know if it means that it comes from the Lunarians, because the Lunarians do have like that quote-unquote eternal flame that's on the back of them, which I guess is supposed to parallel to the Mother Flame, because it's, I don't know, maybe originally it was like an eternal power source in the Ancient Kingdom or something, because I think that's what Lilith was talking about or something. Like they had some kind of crazy power source that they can't replicate to this day, and she says like, oh, we can power the whole island or the whole world if we had that, something like our own sun that they would be able to create.
Yeah, isn't it crazy that Lilith says that?
Yeah.
Lilith says that. She's like, yeah, like, I wish we had an eternal flame. And then we come here and we see the Mother Flame, and it's like, wait, so is this flame not perfect yet? That's kind of the vibes I'm getting. Like, maybe this flame is only 99% complete, and, they're just on the cusp of getting that eternal flame. I'm not too sure, because it would be strange if Lilith didn't know about this, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, I guess she was probably helping in creating this to some extent if York knows how to make it.
Yeah.
And also, maybe the whole thing about being imperfect could also parallel to Luffy, how he like gets tired in Gear 5 and becomes like an old man.
Oh yeah, if he had an eternal flame, then he wouldn't have to worry about running out of energy, huh?
Yeah, and maybe that could further alluding to what his next power-up is. And also, we were talking about this before, but what was it, 1028? We see like that cover spread on the front of the chapter, which is like promoting Smash Brothers or something. And we see Luffy dressed as like Ken, and he has like fire hair and fire fists. Now, of course, that's not like literally canon. It's just, like a color spread for that chapter. But it could be Oda just foreshadowing what Luffy is eventually going to become, like what his true Sun God Nika form is.
Oh yeah, I mean, when you really think about it, like 1028, that came out well before Gear 5th too, so even with this color spread alone, it was already alluding to Gear 5th and how Luffy is, fire-based. But also, another reason why I think Gear 6 is going to be a thing is because of Luffy's iconic number of 5-6, which is Gomu. And it's like, we already got the 5, just give us the 6 and it would be perfect.
Yeah, I always thought about that too.
Just complete it.
And also, maybe it's like hinting at his ending bounty, because like Roger's bounty was like 5.5 bill, so I guess Luffy's will have to be like 5.6 bill, something like that.
Yeah, I think 5.6 is very modest too, because like if Luffy was like a 7 billion berry bounty guy, it would make Roger kind of look like a chump. So I think 5.6 would be really respectable to Roger, and hey, Gear 6.
Gear 6, when he fights Emu, or one of them. And speaking of Emu, I don't know how accurate this could be, but when we see Emu cutting up those bounty pictures back at the original Reverie, it was like 908, somewhere around there, I forget the exact chapter, but she's like she is cutting up Luffy, Blackbeard, and Shirahoshi's pictures. And now that we see where things are headed with the ancient weapons, that could be alluding to what the ancient weapons are inevitably going to be, or some kind of like parallel to them, because obviously Shirahoshi is Poseidon. And we see that Blackbeard probably will get Pluton, since Caribou is essentially going to tell him where Pluton is located, which is in Wano. And then the last is Uranus with Luffy. Now we're talking about him getting the Mother Flame. That could be something there.
Oh yeah, no wait, actually I see that. Yeah, I never thought of it like that actually. Yeah, Blackbeard could get Pluton, Luffy could get Uranus, and then Shirahoshi, since she is Poseidon, she's just another ancient weapon. Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah, I don't know how he's going to like use it for not destroying things. Maybe there's multiple purposes for Uranus. Maybe you just don't have to blast holes into the earth or something.
Yeah, I feel like there could even be like another Uranus too. Like what we saw at Lucia hasn't been confirmed to be Uranus yet. So maybe it's like a Uranus 2.0. Maybe it's like a prototype Uranus that Vegapunk created. And then the real one is at Elbaf, possibly.
Oh, yeah, I guess that could be a possibility too. I didn't think about that.
Because, like, for us, the audience, like, not knowing if it's Uranus or not, that kind of makes sense. But when you see the Gorosei talking about, destroying Leloucia, they're talking about, like, the Mother Flame, right? And it's like, wait, like, why are they calling this the Mother Flame? Why not call it Uranus? So that always kind of like struck a weird chord with me.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it was just classic. I always just assumed it was classic Oda, just like waiting to reveal.
Yeah.
And then one last thing I guess we can go over, other than what Gear 6 could be aside from the fire stuff, is like in the latest chapters when Luffy is fighting against Mercury, when he's like punching him, like his hand, you know, gets welted from his like intense durability or whatever, and like his hand catches on fire as well, and we see that like happen twice. Like, is that probably further foreshadowing that, like, yeah, he is going to get, like, these fire powers?
Bro, he needs to, man. Like I said, somebody being called the Sun God, like, you need sun-based abilities. Like, Luffy does not use fire that often. It's like Luffy's only unlocked 50% of his abilities. And you mentioned this earlier, but, like, there could be a chance that Luffy could turn into the actual Sun God, right? He is a Zoan. What we're seeing right now, I don't know if this is his full Zoan form. It kind of just strikes me as a hybrid form, right? Because he looks like Luffy, but he also looks a little bit like the Sun God. So it does make me wonder, like, what a full Zoan form would look like.
Oh.
Like, would he be, like, all fire?
I didn't even think about that.
Would he get the sun in fear?
That's perfect. I didn't even think about that. Like, hybrid form and the full form. It's like, yeah, technically, we don't know what's going on with him right now. We've only seen him in his, like, white Nika form. Ah, that could be it.
Yeah, but like with Zoans too, like with human Zoans, it's always so strange because we only have a couple of other examples, which is there's the fox from Wano, Onimaru. And he has the Onyudo fruit, which transforms him into a completely different person. He literally does not look like a fox when he uses his devil fruit. He looks like a giant monk. And then we have Sengoku, who we don't really know if that was his hybrid or Zoan, but he could turn into a Buddha. And it's like, yeah, human fruits are just strange in general. But I mean, if Onimaru could use their mythical human fruit to turn into a completely different looking person, like no fur whatsoever, I think there is a chance that Luffy could go full Zoan and just become Sun God Nika. And, you know, we talked about that silhouette earlier, and I'm like a broken record because I bring this up every time, but it's like, yo, Sun God Nika had a sword and a spear. Like, there's a chance that if Luffy goes into that form, he could get those weapons too.
Yeah. I was waiting for that too. I was like, is Luffy just never going to have those weapons, or is he going to have them symbolically in some way? Because he's just, you know, he's supposed to parallel to Joy Boy in every way, right? So there has to be some kind of sword and spear to some extent. Yeah,
people are saying that's Sanji and Zoro, and I like that. I think that would be poetic, but if that were the case, I mean, I guess it would mess up the silhouette. I was about to say, they should have given him, like, wings, you know? Because Sanji and Zoro are, like, the wings of the Pirate King. But I guess that would just straight up change his race if they did that, so maybe not.
Yeah, but that's, I guess that's pretty much it. Luffy's next power-up will be the Sun God. He will be, like...
Fire.
He'll have fire powers, essentially.
Yeah, and you saw how that affected Saturn, right? Like, that guy was grossed out by the fire.
Yeah, he
walked into the room. He walked into the room. He said, "Ugh, ah."
Yeah, why? Ugh. Yeah, I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah, and he knew he was coming here. Yeah, like he knew he was coming to the room with the Mother Flame, and he was still jump scared by the fire. It's like, dang, dude, that's crazy. I'm excited, man. I want to see Luffy's new gear, and I'm also excited to see like what color this flame is in general, because we don't really have a good context for that, right? It could be white, it could be blue, could be red.
Yeah. As soon as we get like the colored of this sequence, it's probably like purple or something.
You think purple?
No. I'm just assuming it's going to be orange, but maybe it could be red or white or blue.
Ooh, yeah, you know what? I think red is good. Yeah, just like a really like not dark red, maybe like bright red. Yeah.
But yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. Check out Sai's channel if you haven't already, and subscribe to it, please. And yeah, have a great day, guys. See you in the next one.
You can find my channel over at youtube.com/Zhoniin. That's where I put all my content out.
Nice try. So Oda may have just revealed that Mihawk was once a Marine, or possibly once a Holy Knight, or affiliated with the world government in some way outside of being a warlord later on in his life. And that's because Oda was recently asked about Mihawk in the latest SBS in One Piece Volume 108. The SBS stands for Shitsumano Bushu Suru, which means I'm taking questions. It's pretty much like the Q&A portion of the volumes, and today we're going to be going over most of, if not all of the questions that he got in the latest SBS, starting with this Mihawk question. So he was asked, in chapter 1058, Crocodile mentioned that Mihawk was called the Marine Hunter in the past. Is it somehow related to the reason why Mihawk joined the 7 Warlords of the Sea? And Oda said, Mihawk is a person who holds a grudge against the Marines in the past and have experienced a great betrayal in the sense of solitude. He's just like Crocodile who doesn't trust people, and there is a part of him getting tired with life. Being a member of the 7 Warlords means that he won't be chased by the Marines. That way, he will have peace. So that's why he became a member, I think. But now, that position has vanished. So the idea now is to hide behind Buggy's shadow. So that's really interesting. It goes back to what I was saying in the beginning of the video. But first, let's go back to chapter 1058 to see what this guy was talking about. So this is when the Cross Guild was like fully revealed. I mean, we knew about their name and formation before this, but this is when we actually saw them talking to each other, along with a flashback of when they formed. So when the Marines were going after Mihawk after the Reverie had disbanded the Warlord system, Mihawk had gotten a call from Crocodile, and Crocodile was like, you know, come over to my side. It's not a bad deal. With our name value combined, the Navy will have to sit up and take notice. You were once known as the Naval Hunter or Marine Hunter once upon a time. And then Mihawk kind of says to himself, after he's asked this, in terms of distrust for others, we have at least one thing in common already. And I guess that was enough for Mihawk to join up with Crocodile and make the Cross Guild. So adding to what Oda says here about he holds a grudge against the Marines in the past and has experienced a great betrayal, it makes you think, like, was Mihawk a Marine in the past? And that very likely could be a possibility, especially because we don't know anything about Mihawk. Like, we know more about Shanks than we know about Mihawk, which is pretty wild if you think about it. And speaking of Shanks, that could be why he and Mihawk are rivals. It could be something similar to like Garp and Roger. Maybe Mihawk was like Shanks's Garp. You know, like the Marine that was always chasing after him, but they kind of had camaraderie. And them always fighting against each other and clashing is probably why they became rivals. Now, if Mihawk wasn't a Marine, it's possible that he was a Holy Knight. Because, you know, we found out that there are these Holy Knights in the world government. They're like above the Marines. They're essentially like right below the Gorosei, I guess you could say. And their leader is Figureland Garling, who we speculate is very likely to be Shanks's father. And I think that would be fascinating if that's another connection between the three of them here. Like Figureland Garling trained Mihawk possibly, which eventually led to him facing his own son and becoming a rival with him. Now, I don't want to jump the gun too much because there's little to no evidence. There's actually no evidence to support other than just Mihawk is a complete beast and he has a crazy sword in Yoru. And that's pretty much it. It's like Yoru is one of the 12 supreme grade swords. And it's like, where did he get that? You know, it would make sense that he could have possibly gotten it from being a Holy Knight or just being a Marine or just got it from the world government in some way, if he just didn't steal it, I suppose. But this makes us think that, or at least makes me think that Mihawk wasn't always like a pirate. And as for what his betrayal was, there's no way to know. I have no idea. Maybe some ultra sleuth out there can figure it out by reading between the lines in the Japanese text, but not me. But just him being betrayed and having a grudge against the Marines really makes me think that he probably was one himself, and then something went awry, and then they just turned on him. Maybe it had something to do with Shanks. Maybe because he let Shanks go. I don't know. Maybe it's not that simple, because another aspect of Mihawk that I personally believe is that he is immortal, because he has like those double ringed eyes just like Imu does, as well as Zunisha and Hakuba for some reason. But in my opinion, these double-ringed eyes signify that the perpetual youth surgery has been performed on you. That's like one of the abilities of the Opi Opi no Mi, the fruit that Law has. Like, you could do this ability with it where you give your own life, but then you can bestow eternal youth or just immortality on somebody. Not like they're invulnerable, but they just don't age anymore, I suppose. because it's all but been confirmed that Emu has this, especially by Ivankov. So I'm assuming that Mihawk has it as well. And it's like, why does Mihawk have this? Who did it to him? I have no idea. It could also lead to how those guys got the fruit that Corazon got the Opium no Mi from and eventually fed it to Law. You know, that could be the connecting tissue there, the last person to perform the surgery on Mihawk. Not really sure, but I think that Oda may have slipped up a little bit here and revealed that Mihawk was tied to the world government in some way. But real quick, guys, could you please follow me on either TikTok or Instagram, whichever platform you prefer to use. I try to upload TikToks and Reels every day. I'm also trying to get to 10,000 followers on either of those platforms. So if you can help me with that, I would really appreciate it. I'll have the links in the description. Thank you so much, guys. So as for the other questions that at least we got translations for, they're not really that exciting, I'm not gonna lie. One of them is like about tears, which you can just look at it here and pause if you want to read it. I'm not really gonna go over it. Another was about Figurlin Garling's hairstyle and what it would look like if he kept growing his hair and beard. Essentially, it would just connect into a circle, which I guess would create the full moon because his beard and hair are already like a crescent moon. And then he was asked, like, what if Ivankov ate Kaido's fruit? And because, you know, Kaido's fruit was originally back in God Valley when Ivankov and Kuma were slaves there. And Ivankov almost had the fruit before Big Mom took it. And it essentially just looks like Ivankov's face on Kaido's dragon body. That's essentially what it looks like. Honestly, a waste of a question. A lot of these SBSs you're going to see are like wastes of questions, but I guess Oda likes answering them because they're kind of goofy. And the stakes are really low on them, I suppose, and he doesn't really have to give away too much information. You can't just directly ask Oda straight up like questions where it's going to reveal like pivotal parts of the lore. Like, he doesn't even want to do that himself with these chapters. Another question was, what would the anthropomorphization of Roger's sword look like? So Roger has one of the, or I'm pretty sure he probably has one of the 12 supreme grade swords as well. I don't know if that's confirmed, but he named it Ace. And Oda does this thing where he makes like the swords look like if they were actual people. Like, he's done it throughout these SBSs, and he recently just did Roger's. And it kind of just looks like a guy with a beard and glasses, nothing really special. And then the last question we got here, he was asked about Big News Morgan. And he was asked if Morgan's is a flightless bird from the mink race. And Oda said, right, there are no bird species among the minks. The mink race is composed of animal humanoids with fluffy hairs. With that being said, Morgans ate the bird fruit model Albatross, who is always in his human form. I wonder what he really looks like in his human form. So this would be pretty awesome if Oda didn't already give us this information in Morgan's Weaver card, right? I'm pretty sure that's where we originally found out that he was a Albatross fruit user who just always stayed in his Zoan form. Still a cool aspect of Morgan's nonetheless, but maybe Oda even possibly forgot that he put that information in the Weaver card in the first place. But I guess also confirming that there are no bird minks, even though, you know, we ourselves never saw any at Zo, but I guess it's just nice to confirm it. But that's pretty much it for this one, guys. Let me know what you think about it in the comments, and if you liked the video, please give it a like, and please subscribe if you haven't already. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one. Alright, I got my boy Sai with me today, and we're going to be going over the alleged gods of the One Piece world. And when I say gods, I mean like the mythical Zoans that represent gods. I mean, obviously, as we've seen with Luffy, once his fruit awakened, he became Sun God Nika. And I want to give all credit to Writing Panini on Twitter. Really love this guy. He's one of my favorite Twitter accounts to follow for One Piece stuff. And he made a thread recently talking about these 4 gods that we were introduced to in the flashback during Skypiea. And I think like 2 years ago, I made a video talking about this stuff, you know, once the Sun God Nika stuff came to light. But he brought up some different options for who these individuals could be, and I thought it was really interesting. Spoiler, the main one that I'm interested in is Chopper. Like, there's a possibility that Chopper could have some kind of mythical Zoan god fruit as well, but we'll get to that. So the first one me and Sai are going to talk about, of course, we got to go over Luffy. We'll just get him out of the way. We all know that he is representing the sun god. Now, what is the sun god? Well, his name was Nika, and we don't really know other than that. In my impression of this, I don't know if the sun god Nika is literally like a real person that existed, more so like an idea that gave birth to the devil fruit, and then Joy Boy, whoever that was, ate it and then became him. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so as far as existing in the world of One Piece, I do believe that. Like, I think there was, like, an actual Joy Boy, and whoever was alive during the Void Century probably ate the Joy Boy Devil Fruit, which would be kind of crazy if you think about it, because that means there's a Joy Boy even beyond that. But I kind of view, this is going to sound goofy, but I kind of view Joy Boy and this Devil Fruit almost as one for all from My Hero. Like, you kind of like pass it down, you're passing down the torch. So I feel like there have been multiple Joy Boys throughout the world and throughout the times, and Luffy's just the newest iteration of it. And whoever was the Joy Boy 900 years ago was just another like pebble in the lake, per se.
Yeah, I kind of got that too. I mean, that is like a recurring thing in these series. Like, in my opinion, Horikoshi, the creator of My Hero, I think he got the whole one for all thing from Avatar: The Last Airbender, if you're familiar with that series.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he got that and a bunch of other stuff from that as well. But going a little more into the Sun God Nika lore, and we'll move on because we already know about all this stuff, but apparently Joy Boy is based off of a Caribbean and West Indian character. Like, essentially he personifies the human need to dance, and he smiles perpetually, bangs on a drum. Pretty sure this is where Oda got the idea for that. And then just going even further into that, maybe even Joy Boy was inspired by Papa Legba, which is from Caribbean folklore. And if you look at this guy, he looks just like Luffy. Like, he has the straw hat and he wears red, which is fascinating. It's like, did Oda read about this stuff in like mangaka school back in the 90s? Because they do learn about mythology and stuff. But usually it's like Eastern mythology and stuff, like Hinduism, Buddhism, stuff like that. But wow, Oda was really branching out far. That is going to really tie into what we're also going to be talking about in this video, because we know that Oda likes to base a lot of stuff off of mythology and stuff. So back to the flashback during Skypiea, when we saw that woman getting sacrificed. As she was being brought to the altar, they said, God of the sun, God of the rain, God of the forest, God of the earth. And you know, we already talked about God of the Sun, and that confirms that there is at least one of these individuals that was real, or at least there's a devil fruit that represents them. So it makes sense that there would probably be 3 other individuals along with Luffy that represent these things, maybe in the form of devil fruits. So the next one we'll talk about is the God of Rain. Now, who could that be? Well, I mean, maybe it's Luffy's dad, Dragon, you know, because he was introduced with Rain, you know, back in Logetown. But the thing that kind of throws me off about that is he's always associated with wind, right?
Yes, he's always associated with wind. He has like his special wind sound effects. He has this green wind that pops up in the anime whenever he shows up. But with wind comes the rain. So I feel like they are very closely tied.
They are. We actually made an entire video last year just dedicated to going over the possibility of what Dragon's Devil Fruit could be. And obviously it's still up in the air, but if we are going off of the theory that all of these gods are represented by mythical Zoan devil fruits, and that means that, at least in this video, just for the sake of it, Dragon would have a mythical Zoan fruit as well. One that seemingly allows him to control the weather through, I don't know, wind manipulation or something like that, because it seems like he has the ability to strike lightning when he wants, right? Because he, I don't know, in theory saved Luffy from getting beheaded by Buggy?
Yeah, it's either Dragon brought down the lightning to save Luffy, or Luffy just has the best luck in the world. Which, you know, it could go either way with that one, but I like to believe Dragon's the one who did it. You know, we know that Dragon was on his way here to see Luffy off, so I bet if he saw his son about to get beheaded, he'd probably step in a very incognito way, which would be the lightning. And you know what? Like, I don't know why, but, you know, just, I'm looking at pictures of Dragon right now, and I'm like, yo, like, Dragon, the rain. Do you remember Dance Powder back in Alabasta?
Yes.
I wonder if that was a way to always like tie in Dragon and Luffy, you know, Dance Powder, Luffy because he dances like Sun God Nika, and then after the Dance Powder comes the rain, which would be Dragon. That's a really flimsy comparison or like analogy, but I think that would be pretty cool if there was like some, ulterior element to that Oda touches on later. Like the meaning behind dance powder, how it got its name and everything.
I think there's definitely something there. I mean, that's what Oda does. He always has like parallels to things and then kind of tells the same story and over again. And I do think Alabasta is for sure telling us something that is either happening or has happened, because it's like the story always relates back to the Void Century, in my opinion. Like whatever Imu and the Gorosei did, we're kind of getting retold that in the first couple arcs of One Piece, like Skypiea, obviously, Alabasta. So I do think that there's probably more of a deeper meaning to the dance powder, even though it has been brought up again, but maybe it will again. But as for what Dragon's mythical Zoan fruit could be, in the previous video, which I'll have linked at the end of this one, we talked about him possibly being a Maru, which is from a mythology similar to like Native Americans. And I don't really want to have to go over that again because it was kind of flimsy, to be honest, him being compared to Amaru, even with the markings on his tail being on his face. But there is another option, especially going off of the markings on his face, which we still don't have an explanation for. It probably has something to do with the races that live in the Sky Islands or came from the surface shot up there, as we saw back in the
Shandorians.
The Shandorians.
Yeah.
But apparently his tattoo is based off of the Algonquin tribe, which are Native Americans. And it kind of does look similar. Like maybe that's where Oda got the inspiration for. But they believed in something known as the Thunderbird, which I think we also might have referenced in the Amaru video, but we didn't really go too much into it. But anyway, the Thunderbird is like a legendary creature, in North American indigenous people's history and culture. And it's considered a supernatural being of power and strength that can create thunder by flapping its wings. I don't know, maybe that's something that he could be, which represents him being the god of rain. Again, like I said, it's kind of flimsy at this point, but I wouldn't be surprised if this is the case with Dragon. He is represented as one of these mythical Zoan gods here. It's either that or he has the air wind Logia, which I think would be cool as well, but we'll move on.
I think it would be cool if he had the Wind Logia, but just like how Luffy realized that he was the Sun God, we find out that Dragon was actually the Wind God the entire time. It's like he got pranked by the Gorosei as well.
Man, they're just retconning everything.
Yeah, they're lying. They're lying about all these fruits. What can you trust now if you can't trust the world government,
Actually, I'm glad you brought that
days.
up because it goes more into about the Gorosei lying about these devil fruits. Maybe they weren't just lying about Luffy's fruit. What if they were lying about Chopper's fruit too?
Yes. So you told me about this theory the other day, or you sent it my way, and when I read the Chopper part, I was like, yes, because this is something I have always been a fan of, that Chopper's devil fruit is more than what we are led to believe. There's no way he's a human. He doesn't look human.
No.
That devil fruit, it's fake. I'm telling you. There's something there.
Yeah. I was always confused about this. Ever since I got way into One Piece and started going over the stuff with Chopper's origin, how the fruit works, and even what it looks like. But let's just explain it first. So we're going to be talking about the god of the forest here. Now, before I even get into Chopper, your mind might immediately go to Ryokuyu, because he has like the forest Logia. Is that what his fruit is? Or
yeah, the Mori Mori no Mi.
Yeah, so you would think, oh wait, no, he's the god of the forest. And to be honest, I can't dispute that. But I'll just say that Ryokuyu doesn't really seem to be that significant. Especially him getting ultra jobbed by Shanks. It just doesn't seem like it doesn't seem like
hate to see it.
He is the god of the forest. I mean, he might be the lord of the forest, but I don't know if he's the god.
The god of twerking.
Yeah.
He's just rest in peace, Green Bull. He came in hot. Love to see him. His ideology a little bit scuffed, but he was a cool character.
Yeah.
He had shades on and everything, but man, let me tell you, he got waxed by Shanks from miles away, might I add. Just miles away, he saw Shanks and he said, "Yep, I'm not about this."
So that kind of is the only thing that really makes me go away from him being the god of the forest, and why I think there's more of a possibility of Chopper. So first of all, Chopper ate the Hito Hito no Mi, the human fruit. And that's just what it was. Because usually when we hear about the Hito Hito fruit, it's associated with a freaking mythical Zoan, like with Luffy. Hito Hito no Mi, model Sun God Nika, right? And then we saw it with Sengoku, model Buddha. Onimaru had a Hito Hito no Mi, model whatever. Oh no, it wasn't even the fox. He was originally a fox, right? And then he ate it.
Yeah, he was originally a fox,
and he became
ate
like a big dude.
Yes, so he has a mythical zone. I got it. I googled it.
I cracked the code.
I cracked the code. Hito Hito no Mi model Onyudo. It's a mythical Zoan devil fruit that allows you to transform into an Onyudo, which is a large monk yokai. So hey, yokais exist. That's a thing.
Yeah, I mean that's probably, it goes back into our other video that we made about the Gorosei devil fruits, how they possibly have all yokais. Actually, we're going to be talking about a yokai after this. Spoilers, but so yeah, and that's a mythical zone. So it's weird that Chopper's base fruit is just the human fruit, and it's like, wow, pretty convenient that an animal in Chopper ate the human fruit and became a human. And it makes you wonder, like, okay, what if like a person ate the human fruit, because seemingly it was made for humans, right? Humans are the ones who eat the devil fruits unless they're like given to animals or they just, you know, coincidentally come across them. But this was actually asked to Oda, I think in an SBS. This is usually where questions are asked of him. But he says, if a person ate the Hito Hito no Mi, I suppose I should say they become human. I guess you could say that means like becoming an adult or finding your true spirit or something. So basically, people will live more human-like. Well, I guess you could say that, or not. Basically not. Goodbye. Princess runs away. That's odd.
Yes, that either means that Oda's hiding something or he actually just doesn't have an answer for it. But I like to imagine Oda could cook up a nice plot twist with Chopper here if, you know, there is something more to it. But it is a really interesting SBS nonetheless.
It is, because he doesn't normally, at least from what I've seen, he doesn't normally answer like that. I mean, he does get goofy, but not the whole like weird, nervous runaway stuff.
Yeah, like runaway, nervous sweats, you know?
And also, he doesn't have to answer the questions. He could just exclude them if he wants to, so he purposely put that out there.
Yeah.
We also found out, the first time that we were actually introduced to the Blackbeard Pirates, we found out that they had ransacked Drum Island, where Chopper comes from, where he found the fruit. And we never know why they did that. And it's like, you know, there's a theory out there. Maybe they were looking for this fruit.
Yeah, they were looking for Chopper's devil fruit. Like, I feel like that has to be it, because there's nothing else that would explain why Blackbeard decided to attack Drum Island. Because, like, Jaya, for example, right? He went to Jaya with his crew, and Blackbeard didn't slaughter everybody. Yeah. He didn't attack everybody in Jaya. So, no, like, Blackbeard is pretty passive throughout the rest of the series until, obviously, he becomes a warlord and does the whole ace thing. But it's like, okay, Blackbeard wanted something from Drum Island. He made Wapol leave, or Wapol ran away. You know, the people were terrorized, and it's like, okay, for what, though? Like what was he looking for? I feel like it had to be Chopper's devil fruit, or actually no, it has to be Chopper's devil fruit. Like what else is there? Yeah, I was trying to like brainstorm. I was like, oh, he's after the 20 MDs. He's after Wapol, but like no. It has to be something Chopper related. And what's interesting about Chopper too is that Chopper has this running gag where his bounty is always notoriously low. The world government constantly underplays Chopper. They call him the pet of the Straw Hats. You know, cotton candy lover Chopper. And it's like, okay, you know, at first it's like, all right, that's a mistake. You know, nobody knows who he is, whatever. But when you really think about it, it's like, wait a minute. Is this really a mistake? Like they have CP9 records, right? Like Kumadori fought this guy. He saw Chopper transform. He's not a pet. We saw him time and time again post time skip. Chopper has actively fought Marines, and we still have this narrative where, oh, he's just a pet. He's just a pet. So I think there's something going on with that bounty poster. I feel like they are excluding him or underselling him for some reason. And even on Egghead Island right now, I believe that Chopper being on the Labo phase is significant, because Saturn, you know, a man of very few words who has only really said Sun God Nika over and over in his head. I feel like they don't want Saturn and Chopper to meet, because if Chopper were to be in close vicinity to Saturn, Saturn might drop us what Chopper actually is. You know, Saturn might explain why Chopper's bounty has always been so low, or why he's been underplayed. And even going past that, like, you know, Chopper beat Kumadori, and that's where he got his first bounty on Enies Lobby. I wonder if there's a reason why we didn't use any of Chopper's other forms as his bounty poster. Like, I was actually expecting to see like the big monster point Chopper as his bounty poster, but instead we have the normal form. And it's like, okay, something's going on here. Like something, Oda's cooking something with Chopper. That is what I believe. And even if you want to go the route and say he is a human and that we're overthinking this, I would argue that having a human devil fruit would be significant as well. Like, the first human, the primordial human, would be insane as a devil fruit. And we haven't really seen anything crazy from Chopper yet. And the reason why I say primordial human, or the first human, is because we do have a concept of the Adam and Eve tree. So I feel like whatever Oda's cooking up with Chopper's devil fruit, it's going to be absolutely disgusting. In a good way. In a good way.
Yeah, I think
so. Yeah, that's my Chopper rant.
I think so too. And this also finally is like a great payoff for his character as well. Aside from him just curing whatever. It's like, yeah, that's expected of him. But for him to... And what we're getting at is with the whole, if Saturn doesn't see him, he'll figure it out, or why they're downplaying his bounty because they don't want hype on him. It's because he could have this forest god mythical zone, whatever it is. Writing Panini thinks it could be forest god Cern Unos, which is associated with nature, fertility, the wilderness. It's like a guy with antlers or whatever, but we haven't seen, obviously, Chopper awaken his devil fruit. And considering that it is a zone, and the trajectory that we've been on, he has to awaken it at some point. And I know that people think that Monster Point is him awakening it. And at first we thought, maybe that is it because it seems like it, similar to the Jailer Beast from Impel Down. But now that we know that the awakened Zoans have the rings of clouds around them to indicate that they have been awakened, like a true awakening, we have to see that with Chopper. So when Chopper's fruit does awaken, which I think it will, maybe we'll have this big reveal. It's like, oh my god, he's the forest god. He was actually a mythical Zoan this whole time. Because going even more into that, the fruit itself looks like a mushroom. And it's like, why would the human fruit look like a mushroom? That's weird, right?
It's not exactly what you'd expect, right?
Yeah.
Like, I would expect some, like, human-shaped cookies or something before that.
His ability to speak to animals, like all animals. Like, it's one thing if he could just talk to other reindeers. Yeah, I get it. But he could communicate with all animals.
Yeah, that is not something a human could exactly do, Not a human feat, I would say.
Yeah, so are we just supposed to chalk that up to because he's an animal, he could just talk to all animals? Or is it the fruit?
Yeah, that's something I never thought about, yeah? Like, yeah, Chopper's a reindeer, sure, he can talk to maybe a bear, yeah, sure, other reindeers, cool. But, like, he's over here talking to, like, the Kung Fu Dugong from Alabasta, and it's like, yo, those are turtles! Those are turtles and seals! Like, what do you mean he's talking to them? I think another thing with Chopper that I find kind of interesting as well is that Chopper, when you think about him in the Rumble Ball and how the Rumble Ball can transform him into different shapes and sizes, it's like, okay, like, that's pretty plausible because we saw that with Beppo as well. But now I'm wondering, like, wait, is this like Luffy and his gears? Like how Luffy has gear 2nd, gear 3rd, gear 4th? Like, is this like Chopper just tapping into, like, the different forest god gears here? And even past that, like, going back to the concept of a forest god, when you think of a forest god, you can go to dryads, you can go to, like, mythological creatures, and I'd say 7 out of 10, or maybe even 8 out of 10, almost every iteration of a forest god can transform into any animal inside of a forest. I don't know what it is. I don't know how, mankind always comes back to that one concept, but that's kind of what Chopper is doing here. He can transform into, like, any shape and size he wants as long as he, concoct some sort of medicine.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. He is kind of going through the stages of bringing out the full potential of his devil fruit without fully awakening it yet, same as Luffy did.
Dude, I'm excited, man. If Chopper really is the forest god, I'm gonna be so excited. I want some Chopper feats, bro. Like, I just rewatched Wano for the 2nd or 3rd time, and let me tell you, Chopper, people are hyping up Chopper like, yo, he took on Queen, he kind of fought Perospero, but it's like, it's not enough for me, man. I'm greedy. I want more. Give me more Chopper feats.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Smack someone down.
I mean, that's the whole reason I wanted to make this video. Because of the possibility of him having a possible Zoan that could be awakened into the forest god.
Please, Oda, please.
The last one, which we're just going to glaze over here because we've talked about Emu. Spoiler, Emu is possibly the last god that we're going to be talking about here, god of the earth. We've talked about Emu so many times, and we will continue to talk about them until, you know, we get enough information on them. But it's very likely that Emu represents the god of the earth, and whatever their Zoa or their mythical Zoan is, it just relates to being the god of the earth in some way. Could be some kind of yokai. We've talked about the Umibozu before. There's another possibility that they're the Nure Ona, which could be play on Neurona Emu, their name. Nure Ona Umi, which is a snake with a woman's head. And there's other things that point to Emu being the Earth because, you know, the Gorosei all represent the planets in the solar system, and they revolve around the Earth on a geocentric model. So that's probably where Oda was going with that. Yeah, that's it for Emu. But I'll end this video with why are these gods a thing? Like, why are they important? Why are, like, these the 4 mythical Zoan gods? It could be because they all pertain to the balance of this world, because it goes back into, like, the Aztecs. They believed that these gods were necessary for the sun to rise and fall each day. So they all worship them individually. And the Aztecs, of course, goes back to what Oda was basing the Shandorans off of. Even this altar that we see this woman being brought to for sacrifice, it's obviously based off of the Aztecs. So this could all go into that. And it can also go into what the Gorosei or Venus, Samurai Gandhi, said, the balance of the world cannot be maintained forever. You know, it could also be going into what they were talking about with the Yonkos and the Marines and the Warlords and the world government, which also, interestingly enough, 4. But it could just be these 4 gods all needing to maintain balance in some way or another. But that's pretty much it for now. Mainly just really wanted to talk about Chopper and the possibility of his fruit being awakened. But
how many people are making chopper videos, right?
Yeah,
we need it.
Exactly. And also just
we need the
prospect of what his awakened Zoan would look like would be really awesome. Like a way more humanoid version of Chopper with the big long antlers and like the clouds coming around him. It would be sick because even like, you know, Lucci's awakened fruit looks pretty cool. So just imagine a forest god awakened mythical Zoan. That would be incredible. But
imagine Chopper transforming into every animal known to mankind.
That too.
He would be like Beast Boy from Teen Titans.
Oh, I miss Beast Boy. I mean, I from the original.
Yeah, rest in peace.
But
yeah, original Beast Boy. Yeah, I agree.
But that's pretty much it for this one. Thank you again, Sai, for coming along for another discussion.
Of course, man.
Everybody, subscribe to Sai, as always.
Don't.
Oh, well, don't subscribe to either of us.
Don't subscribe to me.
Don't subscribe to anybody.
I got like 3 YouTube channels. Which one do you go to? Yeah, don't go to any of them, please.
Yeah, I'll have them all linked in the description as always. And yeah, see you guys in the next one. All right, so I got my boy Sai with me.
Yo, what's up?
And today we're going to be talking about a theory surrounding Zoro and Venus of the Gorosei, aka Samurai Gandhi, aka Ethan Baron Venus Joro. So all credit for this theory goes to Writing Panini on Twitter. We also covered one of his threads in a previous video. Really love this guy. He's got another interesting theory here talking about the connection between Venus and Zoro. So I think it's a foregone conclusion that these two are inevitably going to fight. Like, this is one of Zoro's final opponents. Like, I don't know if he's going to fight him before or after Mihawk, but it's going to be around that time. We've also talked about this guy so many times. Pretty interesting character, despite us knowing very little about him. But maybe after this video, we'll have some more insight into him. So, first of all, the thing that is going to give us more insight into him is, of course, something that we usually talk about in these collabs on my channel. And it's the mythology that Oda likes to base One Piece as stories and its characters off of. So, in Hinduism, the gods correlate to planets, and those planets correlate to stones. So, for example, in Hinduism, the god of Saturn, Shani, is correlated to the sapphire stone, or the blue stone. And this is what allowed us to get some insight into what was going on with Saturn before it was even revealed that he was involved with sapphire scales. Because in Egghead, we found out that Ginny, the mother of Bonnie, contracted sapphire scales, and that led to her death. And we assumed, oh, it probably has something to do with Saturn because sapphire is associated with Shani, who is Saturn in Hinduism. And it turned out that that was true. Because when Ginny was in Mary Joie, Saturn did some kind of failed experiment on her, chemical experiment, and it led to her having sapphire scales. So, going off of that, we can assume that these other stones that correlate with the gods that the planets are associated with the Gorosei probably have the same kind of correlation. So, if we're looking at Venus, which is, Venus Juro, Shukra in Hinduism, his stone is the diamond. So, diamond probably correlates with Venus in One Piece. So, the first little hint here that was possibly left by Oda was way back in Alabasta when Zoro defeated Das Bones, number 2. And after he defeated him and he was falling down, he was like, "Are you going to cut through diamond next?" And Zoro said that would be such a waste. So, do you think that Oda was putting some foreshadowing there already in the beginning?
I feel like that is definitely the case. And it's crazy that we call it foreshadowing because that happened around chapter 150, 200-ish.
Yeah,
so
I
it's
say
like,
beginning loosely.
Here we are. Yeah. Here we are like 800, 900 chapters later, and we still have not cut Diamond. And the only Diamond-related character we've had so far is Jozu. And what's notable about that is that Mihawk tried to slash Jozu, and he wasn't able to. But of course, you can argue around that, saying that Mihawk wasn't trying to cut him. He was trying to cut Whitebeard, and Jozu just got in the way. So I think there are a lot of ways to play around that. But Diamond is what I think is going to be the next hurdle for Zoro. I don't know if that's going to come before or after getting a Black Blade, but I do believe that Diamond is going to be like a key thing to cut.
Yeah, I mean, it seems logical in the next step of progression. It's very possible that he even gets the Black Blade fighting Venus, and then he, has the Black Blade fresh to go against Mihawk afterwards. But Wano, of course, being the tying factor here, we've been talking about this since the beginning. Venus for sure comes from Wano. Now, that's not confirmed, but come on. He's dressed like somebody from Wano. He has freaking Shodai Kitetsu, which we're going to be talking about. His last name is Juro. So it's like he comes from Wano. I don't care what anybody says. He was probably like a big traitor of Wano, which is why he joined Imu and the world government and all that stuff. Also, another little side funny thing about Juro is that when Zoro was in Wano and he was like, had that fake undercover name, his name was Zoro Juro.
Yeah, dude, they're so tied together. Dude, if Ethan Baron v Nasujiro does not fight Zoro, I would actually be shocked. Like, the way I see it, and I know this is a very, silly way to look at it, but no joke, everybody on the enemy team that has a sword, they're more than likely going to be a Zoro victim. It happened with King, it happened with all the people in the past, it's going to happen with Ethan. Come on.
Yeah, King didn't even
they
really
were set
need
up for
that
it.
sword. It was almost just like
No.
Oda put the sword there just to show us who Zoro's opponent was going to be.
Yeah. The minute you see the sword, it's like you're like, okay, that's a future Zoro victim right there. Gotcha.
So another thing that could possibly tie Ethan Baron, Venus, to Wano is he is known as the warrior god of finance. He's like a finance bro. And Wano is known as, or at least it was known as, the country of gold. Now that's probably a little connection there. But also going back to Yamato's Makami, devil fruit, since that is the guardian deity of Wano, maybe the Inugami is the opposite. It's like the vengeful one, or the thing that you fear, and it has like curses tied to it. Because we know that there are curses in the swords, right? And we also talked about how it is extremely likely that Venus has the Shodai Kitetsu, which is one of the supreme grade swords. And we first found out about these back in Logue Town when Zoro got his Sandai Kitetsu from that guy who probably came from Wano too, the guy with the Krusty the Clown haircut.
Yeah.
So
I forgot his name.
Yeah, man, that's a great trivia question. Like, what was the guy who gave Zoro Sandai Kitetsu? If you know in the comments, let us know. Comment down below. I'm sure you guys know. Don't use Wikipedia. Has to be off the top of the head. But
I was using Wikipedia as you're saying that.
All right,
I was looking it up. Like, what's his name again?
What is his name?
Oh, I actually I stopped when you said don't use Wikipedia.
All right, never mind. No, it'll remain a mystery to us still. Okay. So he said that famous swordsmen have died tragic deaths because they wielded the Kitetsu swords. And these days, no one uses it because if they did, they wouldn't be around long. So it's possible that Venus is the one who cursed these swords with, I don't know, his devil fruit magic or whatever magic does Gorosei seemingly have. Telepathy and summoning circles and all that demonic stuff possibly. But it seemingly has to be tied to him in some way. Now, there could be more curses to this stuff too. Maybe with the Shimotsuki family. I don't know, maybe he wanted their gold. This is like, I don't know, we're kind of leaping a lot here. The other stuff was making more sense. I wouldn't say so.
No, I really love the vengeful deity of Wano and the whole god of finance like aspect of it, because Wano being known as the country of gold is silly to me. I remember when we got to Wano, I was expecting like a Gildan town. Did not happen. There's like no gold in Wano. And I was like, wait a minute, like where's all the gold here? We go down to ancient Wano. It's exactly the same as normal Wano. It's like, okay, there's no gold here at all. Maybe it's hidden under a mountain. Maybe they just need to get back to work. Maybe Kaido was looking for the gold. But there is a chance that Ethan Baron v Nasujuro, you know, if he was from the Void Century or if he was around a long time ago, or even his family, maybe they're the ones who took all the gold from Wano and brought it to the Gorosei or brought it to the world government. I feel like that could be pretty solid. And it would be like kind of I guess it would be a nice play that, you know, he's betraying his own country. I don't know. There's a lot of ways that this could go. And I feel like once we get that Void Century lore, we're going to look at Wano and be like, damn, dude, Nasujuro did them dirty.
Oh boy, what a year that's going to be. Void Century flashback. Yeah. Oh, man. But no, I'm on board with this for sure, because like you, I was like, okay, where's this gold? Like Shandora, tons of gold. And that wasn't even called the City of Gold. But Wano, it's nowhere. So, I mean, the finance bro god here, he maybe took it. Maybe it had something to do with Shimotsuki's. The reason why I also want to bring up the Shimotsuki's, because it'll be the closing segment here. This could be the ultimate linking factor between Venus and Zoro. So, curses. What if the curse goes farther than just the Kitetsu swords? What if the Shimotsuki family is cursed? Or possibly even Wado Ichimonji, the sword that Zoro received from Kuina herself? Because what if Venus is the reason that Kuina died? Because first of all, let's just call it for what it is. It's kind of nonsensical how she died. Just randomly one day
goofy.
she fell down the steps and she died. Sorry, Zoro, that's it. It's over. The steps. The steps.
A sword
won.
Stronger than Zoro. A swordsman who could beat adults. She died to a one-story house or a two-story house, because like it wasn't exactly like a skyscraper. It wasn't a giant building. No. She fell down maybe 4 or 5 steps and she died. I fell down 3 steps the other day, and let me tell you, I had a slight bruise. Like I was not kicking the bucket. Like, to die to stairs, you would have to land in the most unfortunate ways. You have to hit every railing known to mankind and fall on a knife at the bottom to actually die by that. So the fact that Kuina died in that manner, ridiculous. And I was rewatching One Piece again with a friend, and when they saw that Kuina died, they were making up theories. They said, oh, maybe the dad killed him. Maybe all of the adults that Kuina beat killed her, because it's just so unbelievable. Like, bringing in a curse for the Shimotsuki family, and that's the reason why she died, just feels better. And it could be a little bit of a retcon, but let me tell you, it would be a well-welcomed retcon, in my opinion. Sorry, that was my rant. I had to go off on that one.
You know, I mean,
that one's been welling up inside of me.
I mean, a lot of us are feeling that. Unless you're like a super Oda Glazer. If you're not in that camp, then you are feeling this about Kuina's death. Because it's, like I said, it's nonsensical. It is what it is, but there has to be more meat to it. There has to be a better reasoning to it than just she fell down D stairs. So, I mean, we already have one instance of Gorosei being tied to a character's death, like, you know, back in the day with Ginny, you know, Sapphire Scale. So if we have Venus either cursing the Wado Ichimonji or the Shimotsuki family themselves, which could possibly lead to Kuina's death here, then that gives Zoro all the more ultimate motivation that he needs to defeat Samurai Gandhi here. And, you know, coming full circle with, if we don't know he's going to defeat him first and then fight Mihawk, I think it would be better if he fights Venus and defeats him first, because then he can get Shodai Kitetsu, and that will be a part of his ultimate line of swords to take on Mihawk. Like, he'll have Wado Ichimonji, he'll have what's Odin's sword called?
Enma.
And then he has Shodai Kitetsu. Like, that's his final ultimate level of swords. You know, of course, Wado Ichimonji will be the one that becomes black. And then after that, he would have cut diamond in some way. Maybe, I don't know, Venus has some kind of diamond technique. And then he fights Mihawk. Like, it just makes so much sense to me.
Yep. And there's another thing when it comes to Zoro's blades as well. So Zoro, him having 3 swords, Oda said it kind of started as a meme because Musashi was a legendary swordsman who dual-wielded swords. So he said he wanted to make Zoro even cooler, so he gave him 3 blades. And it's like, okay, that's nice and all, but there's also like some history to it as well, because so the grading sword system that's in One Piece is actually a real system in the real world, which, you know, sounds a little bit redundant there, but there are like actual supreme graded blades that exist. And a long time ago, I believe it had the same number as the number of named blades in One Piece. It lines up 1-to-1. But what's interesting is that book got revised, and later on, they added 3 supreme grade blades to their blade list. And I'm like, yo, like Zoro, all of his swords right now, like Enma, whether it be the Nidai or Shodai Kitetsu, as well as the Wado Ichimonji, I wouldn't be surprised if Oda follows suit with the revision, and he turns all of Zoro's blades into either black blades, or he adds them onto the list of supreme grade blades by the end of the story, which would be really nice. Like, you know, it just makes sense that Zoro would have supreme grade blades, because all of the top tiers in the world have one, whether it be Roger, Whitebeard, Mihawk. Like, Zoro beating Mihawk, nice and all. Everybody can see that coming in the future. It is like a canon event. But it would be strange if he beats Mihawk and Zoro doesn't have like that status upgrade as well when it comes to his blades. So I think that will happen. And I think defeating V Nasujiro could be what solidifies that, right? You know, you beat the Gorosei, you change the system, all of a sudden all 3 of your blades, they're supreme grade. You know, like, we'll give you that upgrade.
Wow. I didn't think about that, but that also makes sense. Yeah, he makes Wado Ichimonji at minimum. You know, maybe the other ones too, but Wado Ichimonji at minimum, he turns it into a supreme grade blade. That's amazing. I like that.
Yep, I wish I had the name of the actual real life book on hand, but if you do look it up, like Oda did base it off of a real thing. So I just thought it was so fascinating how they added 3 supreme grade blades after the book was published, and I was like, yo, that perfectly lined up for Zoro. Like, it's pretty much written in stone.
Yeah, and I'm not putting that past Oda, because he's somehow reading every book that's ever existed somehow, and then
I don't know how he's doing that, dude.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah,
I don't know. He's doing whatever Cat Williams was doing. That's a deep cut
yeah.
Joe Rogan joke for anybody out there.
Oh man.
But that's pretty much it for this one, guys. Let me know what you think about this stuff in the comments. And also, still, let me know the name of the sword seller from
I found it.
Loketown.
I have it.
Okay, what is it? If you made it this far, here's a spoiler.
Ippon Matsu.
What is it?
Ippon Matsu.
Ippon Matsu. Okay.
Yes.
Ippon Matsu.
I completely forgot about that loser. He's not a loser, but, you know, like, it's a crazy name.
Yeah, well,
you know,
I mean, he has a
back
clown
in Lockdown, nobody liked this guy. Yeah, nobody liked him back back on Logtown.
I mean, maybe
he was just kind of there.
I was gonna say maybe nobody liked him in Wano. That's why he left.
Yeah, yeah. He was kicked out. He's like, well, I guess I'm gonna go sell swords in the East Blue then, the weakest sea. Whatever.
All right, you read the title of the video. We're gonna be talking about
That's right.
if Luffy has killed in the series of One Piece. And in order to go into this, I got my boy Sai with me. He knows a bunch about this stuff. He knows about Luffy, if he is a murderer or not. Spoiler, he is. And I'll get into why. I'll get into why Luffy is a murderer and why he has murdered. But first, we got to talk about what the creator of the series, Oda, has talked about on this very subject. Because I think in an SBS, he was asked about this. A fan asked why Luffy didn't kill his enemies. And Oda said, the reason Luffy doesn't kill is because in his era, men live by their beliefs and risk their lives to defend them. Luffy shatters the beliefs of his enemies by defeating them. For them to suffer defeat and to have their beliefs destroyed is as bad as death. Killing their bodies is besides the point. I feel that as a pirate, Luffy and his enemies care more about victory and defeat than they care about their lives. And that's a very Oda-like answer. Very politician-like. And yeah, it is a good answer, but it's a very roundabout way of saying that I don't want my MC to be a murderer, right?
Even beyond that too, there's like a stigma in Japan when it comes to like murder, especially in like shonen and like, you know, young boys anime, which is what One Piece is supposed to be. So yeah, you know, having Luffy going around as a serial killer wouldn't exactly promote a good image. So yeah, like, you know, typical shonen magic, you just have the main character go around beating people, and the bad guys just so happen to live. That's just how it is.
And that's seemingly how it has been so far. Like, if you don't really look too far into it, you would just assume, oh, Luffy's just beat up dudes, maybe brought them close to death, but not quite pushed over the edge. Well, we're going to be talking about in this video why he has actually killed some people. So
he's got blood on his hands.
I mean, he literally does. So first of all, this isn't like speculation or us going into whether or not the interpretation of it or not. This is like one of the prime straight up examples of Luffy killing someone. Now, caveat, it is coming from the 6th movie. So it's not in the manga.
Non-canon.
Not in the anime, and you could say it's non-canon, but it is Luffy doing it. Monkey D. Luffy is doing this act. So, in the 6th movie, we come across this antagonist by the name of Baron Amatsuri. And long story short, he has like this symbiotic relationship with this plant thing, like this lily carnation that like requires strong people to feed on. And he basically lures people to this island so that he can have worthy sacrifices to this lily carnation that is having like this symbiotic relationship with him. And he eventually, of course, gets the Straw Hats, and he does some terrible stuff to them, gets them to like turn on each other and whatnot. And at the very end of the movie, the lily carnation is killed by like an arrow or something, and Luffy finally gets to have his revenge on this guy for what he did to the Straw Hats and everything. Like, this guy's a real big piece of crap. And Luffy winds up punching him with force that we have only seen before when he punches Charlos. You know, the big epic whiteout punch. He literally does pretty much the same exact thing to Baron Amatsuri here. However, he literally kills him. He freaking dies. And not only does he die, he dies like he has like a Sukuna death. I'm not going to spoil it, but when you get killed by Sukuna, you straight up see your friends in this vision of death. And that's what he has. He kills him.
He was at the airport.
Yeah, he kills him so hard, he sends him to the airport and his friends are there. So that right there.
It's crazy.
It shows us that Luffy has killed. I don't care if it's not canon. The character Monkey D. Luffy has killed. Have you seen the 6th movie?
I like how different this movie is, and if you haven't watched it, I would highly recommend it because it's also in a different art style as well.
Yeah, I do like the art. It's kind of visceral. It goes with the tone.
Yeah, it really does, and it starts off like really happy-go-lucky, and then it gets darker and darker as the movie progresses. I highly recommend it. But I will say this though, you know, to argue against the whole like this is canon or like we should count this as Luffy killing someone. All of the movies are written by people who aren't Oda, but at the same time, I wonder what Oda thought about when he saw Luffy just straight up murder this man. But I don't know, like, so if you go with the plot, I'm a spoil the movie. It's been almost 20 years since it released. You could argue that Baron Omatsuri died due to age when the Lily Carnation dies. So maybe there is a scenario where, Luffy hit him so hard, he sent him back to the Stone Age and Baron just perished. It technically wasn't Luffy, but at the end of the day, Luffy is a deciding factor in this man's fate.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because that's going to kind of be the recurring theme in this video. It's like, maybe Luffy didn't directly kill these individuals, but he is the reason they are dead. And in a court of law, you're pretty much getting convicted of murder. That's all I'm saying. Just keep that in mind when we're going further.
Because the death penalty right there, Luffy. I'm sorry.
Because now we're going to go into the fodder realm of things.
Oh, no.
So there's like in case you're not know, fodder is just like nameless characters that are kind of just there to get beat up. Like henchmen, whatever. So in Impelled Down, when Luffy is escaping, they get back to the level of hell with the boiling hell. I think that's what it's called. I forget the number level, but you guys know what I'm talking about. And when they're running through that, there's a bunch of like Impelled Down guards in their way. You got the whole crew. You got Ivankov, Crocodile, Bon Clay, Luffy. And they're mowing through these guys. And they're sending them off over this bridge into pretty much boiling. It's not lava, but it's like water, right?
Yeah, the boiling hell.
It's boiling hell, and it's like Luffy is doing this. The anime makes it a little ambiguous because he's a part of the group that's doing it, but he is nonetheless knocking these dudes over this bridge into the boiling whatever, the boiling liquid. There's no way these guys are surviving that. So I'm pretty sure this is like another Luffy murdering people.
Well, we don't know what's at the bottom of that boiling pit. What if there's like a log that they just so happen to fall on and they survive? Or what if somebody dropped ice cubes in there? Like, hey, we don't know for sure.
That is true.
But just
and we don't see the end result. No. We don't see the end result.
Yeah, we don't see their bones smoldering down there. But I would say, logically, if me or you were the fodder guys and we got knocked down by Luffy into that boiling water, we'd probably be dead.
As I was falling, I would have been like, "You killed me, Luffy! You killed me!"
Rub it in. Yeah. You have blood on your hands. Just screaming bloody murder.
Yeah. You did this! Joy Boy killed me!
He freed nobody.
Yeah. More fodder that Luffy probably murdered. Eni's lobby. When he's trying to, get through Eni's lobby in that awesome sequence, he like throws boulders at the heads of Marines. And they're like making full contact, like crushing their skulls. This is less of a concrete murder than the dropping the other guys into lava, but it is pretty hilarious to look at this sequence.
Sending them to the hospital.
Both in manga and in the anime. So I it's on the table.
He's
for
like
that.
Batman, like how Batman will like break people's backs, dangle them off the rooftop, kick them off cliffs, hit them with like a really sharp batarang, and then you're just like, oh yeah, Batman doesn't kill people, you just gotta laugh it off. That's pretty much what it is here with Luffy, just he's over here beating up all these fodder people. In Oda's goggles, they don't die, they're just injured.
Yeah,
they're just injured.
Yeah. That's what we'll say for them. But if we're going to Dressrosa, Luffy encounters one of these toy soldiers, who is a human, just altered by Sugar's devil fruit. One of like these nutcracker looking dudes. And he pistols one of them through the abdomen, like where their heart would be or whatever, straight through it, clean hole, dude is dead. Now, how do you defend this one?
See, I would say that you don't know how Sugar's power works. What if, what if all she needs is like one piece of the toy to bring him back, right? Maybe there's something here. Surely the person who got turned into the toy soldier wasn't a giant like the giant nutcrackers were. So maybe there's just like a Attack on Titan human-sized person inside of the nape of the nutcrackers that Luffy didn't touch. I'm like Luffy's lawyer right now. I'm trying to argue for him.
No, we're playing nice devil's advocate here. He used observation hockey, and he could sense where it was.
Yes. So, Luffy, no qualms here. Yeah. His observation hockey's too good. He just avoided hitting the person entirely.
Yeah, okay.
That's what happened.
Yeah, they survived that. Even though it looks like murder, Yeah, they survived that. Okay. Zhoniin from the future here. I just wanted to give an update on this sequence because upon further reviewing it, especially in the anime, Luffy doesn't literally kill the Nutcracker in this sequence, but he definitely intended to. He's actually even shocked that he doesn't kill it. He's like, what? I knocked a hole through it. So I'm going to chalk this up to minimum premeditated for sure. What about...
Yeah, and then when Sugar's powers turned off, the guy is now human. He's out there with his family, and he will testify.
What about the beast pirate who Luffy encounters and just straight up hits him with a Kong gun and crushes his spine? Like, he comes down on the top of his head, and his body just accordions.
See, here's the thing. He's probably subjected to life in a wheelchair from here on out. But he's still alive, is he not?
I mean, I don't know.
I'd say he's still alive. He just has a broken back.
Yeah, we didn't see
the guy can still live.
Confirmed death panel, so that is a possibility.
Yeah, there was no confirmed death panel. We didn't see like a funeral or procession for him. Which, you know, funny enough, you brought up Wano. This kind of brings us to the main the main one that people like to talk about.
Yeah,
Kaido,
yeah. This
right?
is where this is the last one we're going to talk about because it's hard to defend this. When Luffy defeats Kaido at the end of the arc, he hits him with the Badrang gun, sends him directly into the ground through the volcano that is on Wano into lava. And we see his body with Big Mom. That's a side thing. She's not involved in this, but see his body get enveloped by the lava. And that's the last time we ever see him. And the volcano erupts.
But Luffy didn't do it.
Who did? Oh, Sun God Nika did it.
It was Sun God Nika. He was taking
Your
over.
Honor.
It was Joy Boy. He was not. Yeah, Your Honor. It wasn't him. He wasn't fully conscious. Luffy did nothing. So, but here's the thing, though. Like, the volcano's the one that had the lava.
It did.
But also, I don't think Kaido's dead. You know, like, coming back to reality, I don't think Kaido's dead. I think he's still out there. Him and Big Mom. You know, going back to the whole, like, Luffy shattering dreams sentiment, I feel like that's going to be true for Big Mom and Kaido as well. Like, if you just go back to all of Luffy's former villains, like Crocodile, right? He wanted to take over Alabasta. What a nasty, evil man. He breaks out Impel Down. He doesn't care. Doflamingo, he wanted to, like, you know, attack the world. He might still want to do that, actually. I don't think Luffy changed that mindset for Doflamingo. Captain Kuro, you know, he wanted to kill Kaya. He didn't do it. He could do it now. I mean, nobody's on that island, but he's not. He gave up the dream. Caesar, he wanted to work for Big Mom and create Smile Devil Fruits. He did it. Luffy beat him, and now he's working with Neo Mads. There's so many people that Luffy has beaten, and after he beats them, they just don't care anymore. Like, Enel is another one, right? He wanted to destroy Skypiea. Luffy beat him. He's like, you know what? We'll leave Skypiea alone. I think it's the same thing for Kaido and Big Mom. Now that Luffy beat them, I don't think Kaido has any interest in Wano. So that's why we haven't seen him yet. I feel like one day, you know, give it 100 chapters. I feel it. I feel like Kaido's going to come back. And it's going to prove that Luffy, indeed, has not killed a single person out there. He's only destroyed their dreams.
Well, I can't argue that. Even though I do hope that Kaido is dead. Because, man, can somebody just die? Especially Kaido, as despicable as he is. And that was somewhat of a fitting ending. You know, as he did kill Odin in boiling oil. Let him die in boiling lava. But, you know, maybe he'll come back, maybe not. But that's it for now with Luffy, his alleged murder sheet, which he may or may not have committed. Thank you, Sai, for
of course, man,
being his defense attorney here.
All I gotta say though is that if I were put in Luffy's shoes, arc after arc, I probably would be killing all these guys, to be honest. Like Doflamingo, you know, like Crocodile. I'd be like, yo, there's no redeeming these dudes. Like, I just put them down.
That's what I'm saying.
I'd be too scared.
We need Zenin One Piece. You know, like
yeah, we need Zenin One Piece.
Yeah.
Just start killing everybody.
Yeah.
Like, imagine that scene after every arc. Luffy beats the bad guy, and then before they leave, Luffy's like, I got one more thing I gotta do. Zoro, pass me the sword. And then he just goes over there and stabs them.
I mean, we know Zoro will kill.
Yeah, Zoro would have, like, no qualms about it, right? Like, Luffy's like, hey, Zoro, can you kill this guy? And Zoro's like, yeah, sure, why not? I'll just chop his head off.
But that's pretty much it for this one, guys. Subscribe to Sai, or don't. His info will be in the description. And if you like the video, give it a like. And I'll see you guys in the next one. All right, today we're going to be talking about Joy Boy. And I got my boys Sai and Par with me. We're going to be going over essentially like what Joy Boy is or who he was, everything we know about him, and then I guess we can speculate about him because most of it, I guess, is speculation considering how little we know about this guy so far. But Joy Boy, I guess, is like essentially the guy that created the One Piece, right? You guys agree with that?
Yep.
I agree. Yeah, I'd say so.
He existed during the Void Century, or before, maybe during. Definitely, like, the Void Century is like the time that this guy comes from. And it's heavily implied that he is the first Sun God Nika Devil Fruit holder. So, in a way, he's kind of like the first Luffy, I guess, since Luffy is essentially like the reincarnation of him, in a way. Not like literally, because Joy Boy probably doesn't look like Luffy, but we'll get into that. Other things that we know about Joy Boy is that he, like we also talked about, had the One Piece come together in some way, whatever the One Piece is on Laugh-Tail Island, whatever he had to do with that, he is the proprietor. He also apparently made a promise to Fishman Island and also had something to do with the construction of the Noah as well, but unfortunately he could not keep that promise. Actually, that's the first time that we hear Joy Boy's name is towards the end of the Fishman Island arc when they read that poneglyph, which is like an apology from Joy Boy. And aside from that, Joy Boy is friends with Zunisha, and I guess he's also friends with the Iron Giant that we have recently met on Egghead Island. The Iron Giant also comes from the Void Century as well and was made by the Ancient Kingdom that went against the world government back in the day, which I'm assuming Joy Boy comes from. So I guess we can start with that. Joy Boy, what do you guys think his ties to the Ancient Kingdom was?
My headcanon is that Joy Boy lived in the Ancient Kingdom. And I feel like there might even be a chance that Joy Boy and Sun God Nika were two separate entities at the time. Because right now, we kind of know Joy Boy to be like a user of the Sun God Nika fruit. But we do know that Sun God Nika is something that people actually believed in the past, and that's why it came into existence. And I feel like that could have been a real person back then. Maybe Joy Boy and Sun God Nika were like a duo team, and there was just a bunch of misunderstandings back then.
Yeah. As far as like choosing one way or the other, can't really say. I'm kind of like, I think originally when chapter 1044 had come out and we started getting the nuance of Nika and Joy Boy and all that stuff, I was always on the board that like Nika was an original entity, just like how there at one point was a dragon that then became put into the devil fruit that Kaido has. And similarly, we're kind of seeing like the endpoints of that with the Gorosei, with like how they're the yokai, but they weren't introduced with the devil fruit names. So it implies that they are the original yokai. And if they were to be turned into devil fruits, they would be like, I don't know, the mythical yokai Nomi, Yuki or something like that, right? And Nika is on that same rung where Nika was an original entity that he got put into a devil fruit, and then Joy Boy is the one that awakened it in the Void Century.
But also, another thing that probably comes from Joy Boy, hasn't been confirmed, but it seems very likely, is that the giant straw hat that is in Mary Schwa, we see Emu observe it. It's probably Joy Boy's, I'm assuming, because who else would it be? Considering that Luffy wears the straw hat, which he got from Shanks, who he got from Roger. Don't know why there's multiple straw hats, but we can assume that the large one comes from Joy Boy, meaning that he probably isn't like a normal human. I've speculated many times that I'm sure many others too, that he is either a giant or a buccaneer. The buccaneer race that we see Kuma come from. It's 50-50 at this point because it seems like the next arc for sure is going to be Elbaf, especially now that Dory and Braki have come to get Luffy, since they've seen that his fruit is awakened. And they kind of like worship Nika all of a sudden, even though there was kind of like hints of it in Big Mom's flashback with the winter solstice and all that stuff, and them thinking that she summoned the sun god. But it's possible that, Joy Boy was one of those two races. What do you guys think about that?
As far as the races goes, it's so interesting because it's like he could be anything. Also, there's like Lunarians too. A lot of people had believed that Nika slash Joy Boy had some Lunarian thing because of the fiery hair. I remember like way back when is like maybe there's some kind of connection between the two. Oh, also smile fruits. Like Wano had a bunch of weird connections to Nika as well. But now that we have the Buccaneer race and then they're literally worshipping him and they pass down his stories, it's almost like it would make sense that he would be Buccaneer. And I think specifically, if there's one thing that we could wait for that would probably push us one way or the other, it's what Vegapunk is like blue balling us about, which he's just like, the Buccaneer race, they have that special ... and then he leaves us. Like he did that like 4 different times with this recent dialogue, and based on that, I think that will tell us like, okay, is this Joy Boy related, or is this like the D Clan related, or is this all connected? And I feel like the easiest answer is probably like the D is with Joy Boy, and then the Buccaneers probably also related. I feel like I'm leaning more towards the Buccaneer, just the way that Oda's been placing the Buccaneer race within Egghead. But then you have to ask yourself, like, how are the Buccaneers so big? Like, maybe they're just hybrid giant people, right? But then you get weird instances, like, technically Big Mom could have shown us, but she has no giants hybrid kids, despite being like basically a giant. So it's really interesting, but you'd have to ask yourself, like, why would Oda not want to show us that? But we also have, I think there's a hybrid giant fishman, so maybe like that would be kind of important to look at if Buccaneers are hybrid giants. So and then on top of that, Oda also brings in hybrid races too, and we don't know how much where the value's placed as far as that goes. But Buccaneer I don't think would be a bad place to place your bets with Nika.
I feel like from an aesthetic perspective, I really want Joy Boy to be a human, but everything is pointing towards him being a giant or a Buccaneer. I feel like giant makes more sense than Buccaneer right now. But another thing to keep in mind too is that all of Joy Boy's Nakama are ridiculously large. Like Zunisha is a giant island elephant. We have the ancient robot who's bigger than the giants and probably bigger than all of Egghead Island even. I don't even know how he's standing on this island without sinking it. But there's a lot of hints that Joy Boy himself is pretty massive. But I also think there is even a chance that with the giant straw hat that maybe there was another Sun God Nika user a while back who also like either awakened the fruit or just had a giant straw hat. And that could be what is in Emu's little refrigerator room.
And then I guess the last thing we can go into with Joy Boy is his death, which we can assume that he died and not of old age. Because I think that the flashbacks that we've been seeing throughout One Piece, some of them are probably like supposed to parallel to Joy Boy in some way. Like I think Roger, Nolan, Odin, these 3 more so are probably supposed to be somewhat like Joy Boy type figures in a way. And they all ultimately die, in unfortunate circumstances. Roger probably the best because he kind of chose, when to go out despite having that illness. But I think this all leads to Joy Boy probably dying in a similar way. He's very likely to be killed, I guess, sometime after the big battle between the Ancient Kingdom and the world government, because I think that he was probably still doing stuff after they lost. Just thinking. And we'll have another collab whenever we can get Morg on here, because I want to talk about the Void Century War, since our tour was able to make a timeline of that. But he was probably killed in a similar way that like Odin was. So I think that probably is why he had to leave Laugh Tale and the One Piece the way that it was. Because, he ultimately goes on to say that, hey, I couldn't finish what I was doing now, but in 800 years, don't worry, Luffy's going to come around. My reincarnation, he's going to awaken the fruit, and then he'll be able to do it. Which I guess also lines up with the apology to Fishman Island. Which means that maybe he even knew that he was going to die, similar to how Roger did. What do you guys think about that?
So my hot take on the Void Century, though, like something I truly believe is that Joy Boy wasn't 100% a good guy. I feel like there's gonna be a lot of nuance to it, and I feel like there's a lot of nuance to like our current story in One Piece too, where like we have some bad guys, we have some good guys, but everybody has a reason for why they're doing what they do, right? I feel like Joy Boy could be the exact same way, because the way I see the Void Century is like, yo, like 20 kingdoms literally came together and said, hey, we don't like Joy Boy, we don't like the Ancient Kingdom, we're gonna have to take him down. Like 20 kingdoms uniting against you, you must be doing something slightly heinous, or, you know, something that is misunderstood. Could be like a Noland and Calgar situation where, you know, one culture was like, hey, like, we love trees, and then the other culture is like, hey, these trees are poisonous, like, it's killing you guys. I feel like there's been a lot of misunderstandings in the Void Century, so I feel like the death is more gonna parallel Nolan and Calgara rather than Odin. As far as like Joy Boy dying, like how he dies, I don't know. I feel like self-sacrifice is pretty plausible because of his apology letters, right? It seems like he already knew that he was gonna lose, so I feel like maybe he surrendered. But I don't know. I'd be pretty upset though if he's like, hey, like, don't worry guys, my will live on, and then it takes 900 years for that to happen. If I was waiting for Joy Boy, I'd be pretty upset. Like, Zunisha was happy, the ancient robot was remorseful. I'd just be mad.
Yeah.
I'd be seething. I'd be like an impaled down escaped inmate, you know? I'd just be like, damn it. I've been locked up this entire time. I've been waiting for you, Joy Boy.
Yeah.
The death part is hard for Joy Boy. But as far as, like, Wano goes, I do think that, like, Odin's story is going to be heavily looked at as, like a prototype version of what Oda eventually gives us through Joy Boy, where it comes to like the scabbards, right? The Hiyori Toki being from the Void Century kind of gave us the nuance that she had to go 800 years into the future. Plus, in the flashback, it's like it had to be 800 years. So there's some like weird prophecy, right? And it's what we do know is that Odin created a similar prophecy of like in 20 years these guys would come, and he based that off of what he found at Laugh Tale, off of, you know, quote the One Piece or whatever Joy Boy left. It's whatever he found out there. He realized, okay, 20 years these guys are gonna come and they're gonna, you know, avenge me if I don't succeed. And so that's why he was like more reckless and broke his thing, which he should have done anyways. That's a whole different debate. But you look at the way he sacrificed himself. He talks about the passing on the will, dying with a smile. I think when you're talking about like the scabbards, and if they were not able to rectify the situation, would they be apologizing to Odin, right? And I think they would be. And then you look at Zunisha and you look at the Legend of Iron Giant and you're like, hold on, okay, maybe that apologizing for something similar. Like if you looked at Ashura Doji, who, you know, he essentially not gave up, but he became a villain of sorts. And when Kinemon asked him, he was kind of like, nah, I gave up on that, blah blah, this isn't gonna happen, this isn't real. And like he could be a character that would apologize, and you can maybe apply that to Zunisha or Legend of Iron Giant, but they're both very weird characters. And I just want to throw it out there too that, like, my god, like if Joy Boy had more of, like, if Zunisha and the Iron Giant are just like tip of the iceberg for what kind of friends Joy Boy had.
It's the Frankie and Chopper of his group.
That was it for the Joy Boy discussion, guys. Thank you again, Sai, Par, showing
man.
up, talking to me, shooting the crap.
Sorry if we got a little bit off topic from Joy Boy.
No, it's all
It was
good.
a joy
It's all good.
to hang out with the boys.
Subscribe to them. I'll have their links in the description as always, and I'll see you in the next one. All right, I'm back at it with my boy Sai.
What's up?
And today we're going to be talking about the times that Zoro has fought Sanji. Well, mainly like one time, because they haven't really fought, but there was at least one time where it was pretty conclusive. And then, of course, we'll talk about, you know, what's going on with them currently. But mainly they've had some scuffles, like way back in the Arlong Park arc. Like when Nami turns heel momentarily because, you know, she's conflicted and she lies to them about Usopp being killed. Zoro's like about to go after Nami. Like, he doesn't care at that. And Sanji's like, whoa, what are you doing? She's a woman. And he kind of like knocks Zoro back. And that's kind of like, I guess, the first glimpse we're seeing of what Sanji versus Zoro is kind of like. And then, you know, fast forward to the Davy back arc, which I'm sure a lot of you have skipped, and it's fine. I'm sure, once an arc is revealed later on in the series, everybody's going to be like, and you wanted to skip Long Ring, Long Land, how they did with Skypiea. But
Yeah.
they also have like a scuffle as they're trying to choose who's going to play which part in the specific game that they're playing. It's actually pretty interesting because it's like one of the rare instances where Zoro is like fighting without a sword. Like he straight up fights Sanji like with kicks and punches for a little bit. I mean, it's not really like supposed to tell you anything. It's kind of just like a funny little moment between them, but it's still pretty interesting. But the main thing here. Oh, and also there's like a scuffle at the return to Sabaody right after the time skips over, but that's even less conclusive. But the main one here is coming from the 5th movie called The Cursed Holy Sword. And Zoro's going after Maya, I think her name is. She's like a character in that movie. And again, it's a woman. So Sanji stepping in, he's got to protect all women. And this is when they're actually like really fighting somewhat. And do you wanna further explain this one, Sai?
Yeah, so I just recently watched the movie not too long ago, so we're gonna kind of get into spoilers more or less because it's such an old movie as well. But Zoro essentially betrays the crew here. Not like, Zoro's had a bad day, he's having an argument with somebody. That's not the case. No, Zoro actually leaves the crew for a while and he pursues somebody else instead. He goes to his old best friend Saga, and he's like, "Hey, goodbye, Straw Hats. I gotta go with him. I gotta kidnap women now. That's my job." And Sanji, like you said, wants to stop that. So they actually have a somewhat serious fight here. Of course, it's not canon, but during this fight, we actually see Zoro put Sanji down, which shouldn't be that crazy, right? Like, in my opinion, Oda has already established the hierarchy of the Straw Hats in terms of strength multiple times, right? We have Luffy, we have Zoro, we have Sanji. That's just how it's always been. But never has it been more apparent than this movie where Sanji tries to kick Zoro. Zoro kind of tanks the blow, and then he kind of throws some slander Sanji's way, and then he actually cuts him, and then Sanji bleeds out of the cut too. So it's not like, Zoro's using the back of his blade. I don't know if Zoro was like holding back, but it's like, dang, dude. Like Zoro, he's out for blood in this movie. Which I guess is the whole point. The sword kind of wants blood. But yeah, it's an insane little snippet. And I don't even know if Oda wrote it, but, Oda must have watched this movie, and he definitely, like, shook his head or something, right? He was like, yeah, that's fair. I guess that's fine.
Yeah, it's a pretty intense moment because they always have, like, heated exchanges in the series, of course, mostly verbal, but, like, he, like, really, not, like, killing him, but he beasts Sanji. Like, I'll go as far as saying he destroys Sanji in this sequence.
It was a one-shot.
It is. Like, one-shot similar to a character recently in the series who actually didn't fall, but Sanji falls. Here, he like knocks him down, and Sanji even looks back like, whoa, what the heck? And then then the rest of the Straw Hats run up to him, and they're like concerned. They're like, what are you doing, Zoro? Why'd you do that to Sanji? Like, he wrecks him. And
yeah.
Do you think that is more or less, again, it's a movie, non-canon, but do you think that's more or less pretty much telling us what the hierarchy is here?
Oh, I feel like it's always been like this, right? Like, Zoro's always been stronger. I don't think the gap is this insane, especially nowadays, right? Like, Sanji has the Germa modification, Zoro has King of Hell mode. Like, I feel like the gap has closed a lot, but back then, it's like, they were such different fighters, right? Like, Sanji didn't really have many opponents with swords. Zoro, you give Zoro a limb, you kind of put it out there, you elongate it, and you're a Zoro victim. Like, it's kind of that simple. So as far as like Zoro beating Sanji back then, I feel like that makes a lot of sense. This kind of is where more or less the fan wars started, which is kind of silly, right? Like, oh, like, are you a Zoro fan or Sanji fan? Like, who wins in a fight, right? But yeah, this whole fight in general is it's kind of silly, and I also want to go on the route and say that Sanji might have even been somewhat mentally nerfed as well, because let's be real, he doesn't really want to fight Zoro, right? Like, most of the Straw Hats, they're still shocked that Zoro is even attacking a lady in this segment, right? Like Nami, Chopper, like, they couldn't believe it.
Yeah, mentally nerfed is a good way of putting it.
A crazy way to put it.
No,
Yeah.
it's accurate because Zoro is the aggressor here, obviously. Sanji's kind of just trying to pacify the situation. And when they get to that standstill moment where Sanji just has like his foot on Zoro and Zoro's, classic stance. He's just trying to stop it, but Zoro, like you said, giving him some guff, saying, hey, I'll give you some advice. When you fight a swordsman, never lose your focus for a split second. Showing you right there, yeah, lost his focus, and then boom, one shot, takes out Sanji. But also that goes back to what you said earlier about, the fandom with Zoro versus Sanji, who's going to win. Like, we don't have to entertain it too much, but let's just say right now, current manga, we'll go into some spoilers, so fair warning. I'm sure everybody here is caught up. And if you're not, well, then you're about to get spoiled. But who do you think is the clear? Because in my opinion, I think it's straight up. Like, I don't really
I mean, it has to be.
Yeah.
It literally, it can't be Sanji. Like, I do think Sanji's right behind him. Like, I feel like, you catch Zoro while he's injured, or, he has a boo-boo, then yeah, I think Sanji would take it. But, like, Zoro has always been, like, the undisputed number 2.
Yeah, I think
I don't think there's a point in the story where Sanji was stronger.
No, not even Sanji right now, like the Sanji that beat Queen, which I guess is still the same Sanji, but
yeah,
that was like the peak of his power, even though he is pretty strong right now. But even Sanji going against Kizaru and Egghead, pretty impressive what he was able to do. But then I think after Zoro just pretty much cleanly defeated Lucci without really having to try too hard, I think that really solidified it.
Oh yeah, no, I agree. Like, and Zoro, he still has, like you said, he didn't try too hard. He still has a lot in his basket. He's still learning a lot as well. For Sanji, I'm excited to see where he grows from here, because for Zoro, it's pretty clear, right? Like, Zoro, he's gonna expand on his King of Hell mode. He has Conqueror's Haki. He can like train that up a little bit. I think Sanji is always gonna be the more, I don't want to say interesting fighter, but it's always fun to see where Oda takes him, because he's very different from like your traditional swordsman.
Yeah.
Right? Like, Sanji started off as a guy who kicks, and then boom, now he can set himself on fire, and then boom, now he has blue flames and he's part robot. It's like, okay,
yeah.
All right, now we're getting crazy. I love it.
Yeah, he needs something, especially when you just pointed out, which I forgot, that like he doesn't have conquerors and he's not getting it, or at least I'm pretty sure he's not getting it. It's just gonna be Zoro and Luffy that gets it, and then maybe Nami. But
I kind of hope he gets it, just so that they could be like the strongest Yonko trio out there in the world. It would solidify them. And I think if you go back to like all of the other Yonko crews, I think they all have at least 3 users with Conqueror's Haki.
No, I think they at least have 1.
What was I thinking of? I think I was thinking about Roger's crew. I think I was thinking about Roger's crew and Rox's crew. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I wonder if I don't want to diverge, but yeah, that's pretty much it for this one, guys. Let me know what you think about Zoro versus Sanji in the comments. That's right, discourse in the comments. And please follow Sai, sub to him on YouTube. I'll have his channel link in the description as always.
No. Follow Zhoniin instead.
No! Alright, bye guys. Alright, I'm with my boy Sai, and once again...
What is up?
Once again, we are going to be talking about Imu's devil fruit, because, we haven't talked about it enough.
We couldn't get enough of this.
We've speculated about Imu being a dragon. We speculated about Imu being the Umubozu. So now we're going to be speculating about Imu being another thing, possibly. Just keep in mind, yes. Imu could be her or his devil fruit could be whatever you want it to be, because we have no idea at this point. I mean, we're going to be going over tons of stuff, including the silhouette. We love going over silhouette piece stuff. So first of all, this theory is coming from my favorite One Piece YouTuber, Uteron. Should go give him a follow. He's a Japanese YouTuber, and he's crazy with the One Piece stuff. He's probably
it's insane.
Yeah, he's probably going to give you more of an insight into this stuff than the YouTubers that you're currently following, simply because he is Japanese and he can like go between the lines and stuff. Like us English speakers can't. But recently, with the discovery of what the Gorosei devil fruits are, he started to speculate more about Imu, because the Gorosei are beasts in some way. They're all mythical Zoans. They're all like yokais or mythical like creatures in some way. So naturally, Imu is probably going to be the same, especially because back at the Reverie, we saw Imu's silhouette, and he or she is probably a beast the way that they are. So, first of all, like, what do you, just your strong opinion or your leading opinion, what did you think?
My
what
leading
do you
opinion?
think? Yeah, did you even
Yeah.
have an opinion on what Emu's devil fruit could be?
Oh yeah, yeah. Ever since day one. I still haven't changed, I will admit. Learning about the theory we're about to talk about today kind of wavered me a little bit, but I still believe that Emu is a cartoon devil. Something out of like
Oh.
Cuphead, yeah. So that Luffy would have an opponent that could have the same goofy abilities that he has. Because right now, like we're fighting a bunch of serious characters, they're kind of getting memed on, and I'm like, okay, the only person that could really give Luffy a run for his money, it would be like the antithesis of him, other than Blackbeard, of course, since he'll just negate it, would be Emu. You know, because for Blackbeard, he could probably just negate Luffy's powers, and then they'll have to fight mano a mano, and it's like, okay, that's cool. But what about the cartoon aspect? You know, I want an opponent on that level, and I'm like, yo, like if Emu was a cartoon devil, that'd be pretty sick.
Yeah, I could see that.
Kind of like Aku from Samurai Jack, even.
Yeah, yeah, it would have to match up with Luffy. They would both have the Toon Force abilities, I suppose, right?
Yeah.
Well, this theory is not a cartoon devil. This is actually more mythology based. Actually, a different kind of one. A philosopher actually came out with this stuff, Plato. But we'll go more into that. So, the first thing that makes Uteron think that this could be a strong possibility. I mean, first of all, it came from like a comment in his comments section, another Japanese viewer. But if we take a look at the empty throne in Marijois, the throne that Emu sits upon, the armrests are like lions. Now,
Yes.
does that mean anything? No, it doesn't have to mean anything. It could just be a cool design. It doesn't really have to symbolize anything. But underneath, like, the armrest, you kind of see, like, I don't know, almost like a serpentine shape.
Kind of like a snake design, right?
It kind of looks like it. To me, it kind of looks like
you know,
it.
the guy likes snakes.
I mean,
Yeah.
this could be confirmation bias. I mean, this video is confirmation bias for sure, but it kind of looks that way. And that's because that's what the demiurge is. That's like the whole crux of this video. That Emu's mythical Zoan devil fruit could be based off of the demiurge, which, you know, like we're pointing out on the empty throne here, is like this lion-headed serpent creature with human arms. Now, to go a little more into it, it's an artisan-like figure responsible for fashioning and maintaining the physical universe. Now, that's also interesting because that probably relates to Emu as well, because, in my opinion at least, I'm pretty sure Emu is the one that's responsible for the way the world in One Piece is right now. Like the red line, the calm belt, the elevation of the water, all of that stuff. Are you on board with that?
I am as well. When you think about how weird the red line is in the world and how so many problems would be fixed if the red line were destroyed, it does feel like Emu has something to do with that. So I don't know where that theory spawned. I feel like a lot of people have talked about that, like, hey, the red line is artificial. And it's like, yeah. I feel like a majority of the community kind of come together with this theory and kind of agree, which is kind of cool. You know, you hardly get that. So yeah, I am on the boat that one way or another, Emu definitely had a part to play in the creation of the red line.
So it would line up with the demiurge, in mythology at least, created by Plato, being the creator of the world, because that's kind of what Emu is. Also, I think Emu also represents the Earth. If we're looking at like the Gorosei, how they're all planets in the solar system, Emu is probably Earth, as where, you know, Luffy is the sun. Also, speaking of that, another interesting thing about the demiurge is that if you look around for some depictions of it and some imagery, it's associated with planets in the solar system. And there's even sometimes where it's like behind the sun, in front of the sun, or biting the sun, which is pretty interesting. You know, the sun, big iconography in One Piece to the good guys. Emu, probably more related to the moon. Not always the bad guys, but usually the moon is associated with bad guy stuff. Another little just side thing I want to put out there. In Japanese, She is 4, and she is lion. So that means maybe 4 times 4 is 16, and then 16's significant number is like the 16 holy bullets that we see Daffy use against Luffy, but then also the Mother Flame or Uranus, the rays that come down are 16, and 16 is supposed to be like the holy divine number, which allegedly associates with Emu. I know. What are you talking about? This is nonsense. I get it, but just got to put it out there in case some of you guys like that stuff.
Yeah, 16 is pretty crazy. I mean, it's kind of everywhere when you really think about it.
I know. I feel like
when it
that
comes
movie.
to like Marie Joie.
Yeah, if you look into it,
you just keep on seeing the numbers.
Yeah, you could just keep seeing 16 if you want to. But I don't think it's a coincidence. There's definitely like obviously 16 holy bullets from Daffy. That's not like some weird made up thing. Like Oda obviously did that intentionally, and we've talked about it before. I think Daffy is a direct parallel to Emu, the same way that Enel is. But going back to the silhouette that we see of Emu's Zoan form or devil fruit form, she or he is like coming down the altar and has like those 2 arms with that ambiguous shaped head and sharp teeth, because we see like the mouth open and destroy Sabo's flames. That shape, if you wanted to, can look the way that the demiurge.
Say that.
Yeah, it looks like the way that the demiurge is shaped. I mean, at least I think so. I mean, also, granted, before I've said that Emu is probably like a dragon type devil fruit or something, and that could also be a dragon, but I don't know. Looking at the demiurge now, it could also line up with that too.
Oh yeah, no, I agree. I mean, when you look at Emu's silhouette coming down from the throne, it could literally be anything.
Yeah, it could just be
so many things it could
a
be.
big man.
Yeah, a big man, just anything. And that's kind of where I started leaning to my theory of like the cartoon devil, because like, yeah, it's a goofy shape. But I mean, the demiurgus, like the way he looks, right? It's like this weird lion snake with arms, and there's many depictions of him. This is just one of them because he can apparently shapeshift as well. And I'm like, hey, if that's the case, then that's perfect, right? Like, and you said earlier that there's many depictions of Demiurgus biting the sun, and what we see in that chapter is he eats Sabo's flame. So it's like, okay, I like this theory. I feel like it does have some pretty good backing to it. But yeah, and also I like just saying his name as well.
Yeah, it is cool. But speaking of the name, like we said, it was made by Plato as like a creator type of false god, which is also interesting because Emu is obviously the false god of the One Piece world, which will eventually be revealed. But also in that manuscript, where the demiurge comes from that Plato made, is also the Atlantis legend, interestingly enough. And Atlantis was a place, we all know what Atlantis is at this point, but it was like this great advanced civilization that sank into the sea due to a great flood and earthquake. And, some of you are thinking, whoa, that's kind of like the ancient kingdom, because we know that the ancient kingdom obviously is no longer here. They went away because they opposed Emu and the world government. And we actually found out from Vegapunk that they were super advanced. Like, they were pretty much the way that Egghead Island was. And, like we also talked about, there was apparently like a great flood at some point in the One Piece world, probably during the Void Century. And, that's responsible for why the sea level is raised the way that it is. So Atlantis is probably what the ancient kingdom was, or Laugh Tale, which also probably parallels to Emu being the demiurge, or at least just Oda basing some part of the story off of Plato's manuscript.
Oh yeah, I mean, I agree. Like, when you think about the One Piece, it's kind of crazy that nobody has just stumbled upon it, right? Like, hey, if you're just sailing around past the Grand Line in the New World, how can you just not find Laugh Tale? It's been 40, 20 years. You know, even before that, like nobody's found it in hundreds of years. Like it's crazy. So it has to be either sunken deep into the ocean. So when you think about the One Piece and Laugh Tale, it's always so strange that nobody has just randomly stumbled upon it, right? Like, hey, you know, after Roger found it and it inspired the great pirate era, like nobody found Laugh Tale. And then even before Roger, you're telling me hundreds of years passed and nobody just randomly stumbled upon it. Joy Boy's treasure. Like, there's no way. Like, the only two real options I have come to is that it's either sunken into the ground like Atlantis, or it's kind of like the One Piece filler episode where it's an invisible island that you have to show up to at a certain time of day that, you know, it just magically appears. Like those are the only real two options, and I'm like, okay. Like, out of the two of those, though, I feel like Atlantis is the more plausible route, especially because it's such a popular myth as well. Like, almost everybody knows about Atlantis. I don't even know where I learned about Atlantis, but I feel like from an early age, it's like, oh, yeah, there's like the lost city of Atlantis. It's somewhere down there. It's hidden. It's hidden.
Yeah,
I remember as a kid, I kind of wanted to find it at one point, you know, like, oh, let me go into the ocean. Let me, you know, like, let me swim down a little bit. Got to see if it's down there.
I mean, there's still some adults who are unironically looking for it as we speak.
Yep, they're still hunting for the One Piece.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do like that the myth of the Demiurgus, like he kind of ties in Atlantis as well. Like I feel like this is an all-encapsulating theory, and that's why I really enjoy this as like in general.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm on board with Emu being the Demiurge. I'm also on board with Emu being the cartoon devil. As long as it's not as goofy as Gear 5, there needs to be a balance to the goofiness. And I'm also on board with a dragon or the Umibozu. It all works for me. But that's it.
There's not really a bad answer, huh?
Well, that remains to be seen.
wait. Have you heard some bad ones? Wait. What is it?
No. I'm just saying it just remains to be seen. Oda could just drop the ball, and then it's just something just not good.
I feel like the one way Oda could ruin it, or not ruin it, but you know what I mean. Like the one mess up I think Oda could do, and he could get away with it, is by making Emu ugly, like making their human appearance just butt ugly.
The fake straw hats, like the fake Robin and the fake Nami.
Like the fake straw hats. I remember their names. I think that the main dude's name is Damaro Black, the forked tongue. Oh, or like Orochi from Wano, right? Like he had a cool devil fruit, but it's marred by his ugly appearance, so it's like, damn.
True. I mean, that could be why she doesn't want her face or his or her face shown. It's always hiding.
Yeah, what if they're just allergic to the sun? That'd be crazy too.
That would be something.
Oh yeah, allergic to the sun, and then they have to fight the sun god. So it's like, oh no, where's my sunscreen?
True.
Quick, somebody save me.
But that's it for this one, guys. Hope you enjoyed this theory. If you didn't, let me know how much you disliked it in the comments. And please follow Sai. I'll have his channel link in the description as always. And yeah, have a great day, guys. See you in the next one.
Yep, we'll catch you next time.
Alright guys, Oda just dropped a whole bunch of new spicy information that we didn't really know about before in the latest One Piece volume SBS. So in case you're unfamiliar with what the SBS is, or you never really knew what it stood for, it means Shitsuma no Bushu Suru, or I'm taking questions. It's a special column featured in most of the One Piece volumes, and it's generally formatted as a straightforward question and answer column with Oda replying to fan letters. And I mean a wide variety. There's a lot of nonsense that goes on in these SBSs sometimes, and I'm gonna skip through a lot of the stuff because I only really want to talk about the interesting things. But anyway, this is coming from the latest SBS from volume 107. In chapter 1076, Lucky Ruse said, "Yahahaha, you're one to talk, Beck. Who do you think he's mad at? So, does this mean that it was Beckman who took out Kid's arm?" And Oda said, "Yes, it seems like it. This is the pirate world, where only the strong ones remain. So I guess that confirms that Ben Beckman was the one who removed Kid's arm." And Yeah, that's really plummeting kid stock even lower than it already is. It is at an all-time low right now. I mean, he's straight up meme status in the community at this point. And before I go further, let me just say I'm not against Kid. You can go back to my coverage of when he was taking on Big Mom with Law. I was very supportive of Kid. I'm not necessarily like a big fan of him, but I'm not a fan, if that makes sense. I was even vouching for him to be a straight up Yonko after defeating Big Mom. However, he is in a very rough patch at this point, and I do think he's, going to regain his stock. He'll come back, do something of significance. He might even, I don't know, do something to the red-haired pirates since he's taken such massive L's from them. Because we thought at first maybe Shanks took off his arm because why not? His arm got removed. It seemed like it was a sword or something, but no, it just got shot off by Ben Beckman. And at this point, Ben Beckman is probably just as strong, if not stronger, than like an admiral. Oh man, that's probably super controversial to say, but it really seems that way, right? Because Shanks seems to be stronger than Kaido at this point, and considering how power creep works, Ben Beckman has to be stronger than any other commander or lesser or equal that we've seen before this. And I also think he probably has like sea stone bullets that he also coats with haki, right? He has like the ultimate combo. So Oda was asked, what is the name of Bonnie's devil fruit? I know many similar questions have been sent to you, but please tell us. And Oda said, yes, I've been asked many times. I noticed and thought to myself, I haven't revealed it yet. It's the Toshi Toshi no Mi, age fruit, which makes the user become an age-altering human. And for the sake of those who don't read the SBS, I need to mention this in the main story too. Yeah, go figure, Oda. For those who don't read the SBS, which is like, what, 99 point whatever % of your audience? Yeah, I know, sometimes we hardcores can forget that the majority of a fandom is actually just like casuals and people who just every now and then kind of follow the story somewhat. And I also think it's funny that he's like, oh, I haven't revealed it yet? And he's like, yeah, it's not really that big of a deal. We kind of figured what her ability and fruit was, just from the contextual clues, of course. But sometimes we give Oda a little too much credit. I'm not saying he's not a genius, because he absolutely is a writing and creative genius, if there ever was one. But that doesn't mean that he's like perfect. Sometimes when we think that Oda is like cooking up something masterful and he's gonna like let it rip at the last crucial, specific, prime moment, when actually he just forgot. That's actually probably happened so much with so many things that we've been wondering about. Not just in One Piece, but like in most battle manga series going on right now. When Luffy met Bonnie, he called her Boggy, but he quickly changed it to Bonnie. Is there any particular reason for this? Oda said, indeed, it was changed. But before that, when Luffy heard that Bonnie's father had been turned into a cyborg, he got excited and said, that's cool! He regretted that and called her Boggy, but was immediately corrected, which made even Luffy feel awkward. So he will never make that mistake again. So I like this, because it gives us some insight into Luffy's inner monologue, which we never really hear, or really know what Luffy is thinking. I'm sure I'm not the only one who thinks this, but Luffy comes across as very neurodivergent. Maybe that's intentional, maybe not. But it's hard to really read Luffy sometimes, and if he is being genuine or if he is just not even aware of what he's doing. Like with the whole calling people by the wrong name. Now, obviously, there's a trend of him calling people that are less than reputable a different name, kind of like his own way of like bullying them, I guess. But we do see that Luffy does have some kind of moral compass when it comes to this type of stuff. Hello, Oda-san. When Luffy was talking about the end of his dream, Caribou was nearby inside a barrel. Does this mean that Caribou also heard the end of Luffy's dream? Oda said, so a lot of people were bothered by this, but please look at the previous page before that. It was said in a loud voice, but it was barely audible and didn't reach inside the barrel, so it's okay. It was only the Straw Hat crew who heard the end of Luffy's dream. I both like this and feel bad for Oda because it's like, you can almost kind of feel like his frustration in here. It's like, no, just stop. I didn't want that to be like that. Yes, I know that I drew Caribou in the barrel, but he didn't hear it, okay? He didn't hear Luffy's dream, so just let it go, okay? Only the Straw Hats heard it. It's like, wow, how many times would Oda have to do this? Like, if everybody or most people were able to like ask him specific questions about the series, especially like the real hardcore pedantic ones out there, like Oda would just have a meltdown. having to like forcefully correct these people's headcanons that they've convinced themselves of. And I'm not even saying in this particular instance with the caribou in the barrel thing, it's not really that big of a deal. To be honest, Caribou probably did hear it, and Oda just had to course correct here. Hello, Oda-sensei. If the former and present 3 admirals of the Marines, referring to Akainu, Aokiji, and Kizaru, were in the real world, what kind of profession would they have? Oda said, I think all 5 of them, Oda included Ryokuyu and Fujitora, would be radio presenters, All Night Nippon of the 3 admirals. For those who don't know, go and research it. Okay, so a quick Google search will tell you that All Night Nippon, also known as All Night NANN, is a Japanese radio program broadcast by Nippon Broadcasting System and other radio stations from 1 to 5 a.m. Saying broadcasting a lot is kind of difficult. Maybe it's my East Coast accent. So yeah, that's pretty interesting, right? They'd be radio presenters. Although Oda comes from a different time than most of us, so I guess you could equate them to podcasters by today's standards. No, I'm not saying that there aren't radio presenters, quote unquote, anymore, but you know what I mean. It's like a antiquated type of thing almost at this point. When Brook saw Zoro sleeping with Toko and Hiyori, what was the thing that came out of Brook's eye hole? This reminds me of Rick and Morty. Oda says, I see. Something indeed came out in replacement for the eye. Since it's black, could it be coffee? Or is it a black cat? I will say it's a black cat. I don't know what Oda's talking about here. I'm sure he thinks that this is like hilarious or something. Maybe in Japanese it is funny, I don't know. In the past, Kobe's goal was to become a commissioned officer of the Marines, but now he wants to be an admiral. Would his rank still rise even if he's now a sword member whose resignation documents are already formally submitted? Oda said yes. Was the explanation about sword a bit complicated? In chapter 1080, Aokiji said formal submission of documents. They can be disavowed anytime. This means they entrusted their resignation, but they are not fired / cut loose / disavowed yet. In the case of a Marine soldier getting caught and becoming a hostage, the Marines will acknowledge their resignation there and say that guy is not a Marine soldier and forsake them. The ones who are fine with this process so they can fight as they please are the Marine soldiers called sword. Did he do this on purpose? Because I don't really think this explained anything. It just made it more complicated than it needed to be. He didn't really answer the question, but I guess they can become an admiral. I mean, Kobe for sure is going to be an admiral by the end of the story. There's no chance that that's not happening. So I guess it means yes. Hello, Odachi. This is like a pet name that the readers call Oda sometimes. I think everyone didn't notice, but I am an adult. So it dawned on me. The sword member Hibari-chan is head over heels for Kobe, right? Right? And Oda said, head over heels? That term is so old. 35 years old. Kuro Bushitaro. Pen name of the question center. Head over heels means being in love, right? I'm quite dense, so I can't really tell. So yeah, Oda obviously messing around here. And clearly, Hibari is into Kobe. Like, this is Kobe's love interest. And I really hope that Hibari is Akainu's daughter, because that would be some 10 out of 10 writing right there. Because that's like the perfect revenge for Kobe to take on Akainu, right? Like, if Kobe beat down Akainu at the end of the story, that wouldn't do it justice. He would have to take his daughter, or his daughter take Kobe. However you see it. And then, man, I hope Oda does this. All right, so these next couple questions are like something that you would read in my comment section maybe. And it's a bunch of these thirsty dudes asking about Kujaku, you know, one of the members of Sword, who I think is Suru's granddaughter, right? And she has like some kind of whip devil fruit or something. And Oda just winds up saying, are you all idiots? And he just kind of gets annoyed and he's like, go away, perverts. But it's like, Oda, you summon them. And also, don't act like all of these characters are just not Nami with different hair. Like, you have a specific type of woman that you keep drawing, and you're selling this specific type of aesthetic to not just adults, but straight up children as well. And you've been doing it for the last 26 years, so you're not innocent, Oda. You can call us idiots, but don't you dare call us perverts. Oh, and this next question is ever so apropos. I see that you have researched in drawing characters' butts, but that was only for the female characters, right? But how about drawing male characters' butts, huh? Oda said, I'm being threatened to draw male characters' butts? So the SBS is this kind of quarter. No, it's not! Could it be that the name of the vice commander of the North Army of the Revolutionary Army, Jiran, came from Jiran Amos, the main character of Combat Mecha Abungul? Zabungul? Is that an X? What? How do you know Jiran? Are you an old man? I think that was also an anime from about 40 years ago. I remember his face being round, so I tried drawing him that way. I also remember singing the theme song when I was a kid. It was awesome. So this is more confirmation that if you're thinking, did Oda get inspired by this other character that I'm thinking of? The answer is probably yes. Actually, if you're thinking if Oda was like inspired by literally anything and he included into the story, the answer is also probably yes. I don't think anything in One Piece was born in a vacuum at this point. And there's nothing wrong with that. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much it for this one. Let me know what you thought about this video in the comments. And if you liked it, please give it a like and please subscribe if you haven't already. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.